multimedia news platform Cbrc News Live
is now on YouTube.
Cbrc News Live.
Cbrc News Live.
Cbrc News Live.
Cbrc News Live.
Cbrc News Live is now on YouTube.
Click here.
Click here.
Click here.
Click here. Click here.
Subscribe. Hi everyone, I am Christian Castro Mendoza, a licensed professional teacher and a proud CBRC top-notcher. And I am going to rationalize the summative examination for professional education. So, let us begin with number 1. Values are subjective. Your value may not necessarily be my value. What subscribe to this thought? 1. Progressivist. 2. Pragmatist. 3. Essentialist. Let us discuss first the progressivist. Progressivism is a student-centered philosophy which allows the children or the students to have their own beliefs. Second, the pragmatism is a student-centered philosophy as well that changes or shifts according to the needs of the learners. On the other hand, essentialism is a teacher-centered philosophy which believes that there is a set of skills or knowledge that uneducated people or educated people should have. Therefore, we should remove that, and that leaves us with number 1 and 2 as the correct answer, and that is letter D. Number 2, students must be taught self-responsibility is the desire of the blank teacher. A. Existentialist. B. Pragmatic. C. Constructivist. D. Utilitarianist. Utilitarianism is about the general welfare of the society, while constructivism is about helping the students or developing them into making their own concepts, while pragmatism is about being practical, while existentialism, it believes that we have freedom of the will, which comes with responsibilities. Therefore, the answer would be letter A. Number 3, of the following, which is the most powerful source of values like beauty and goodness outside the school system? A. Government propaganda. B. Nature. C. Commercial advertising. And D. Mass media. Letters A, C, and D, as you can see, are all not a good source of goodness as well as beauty. That leaves us with letter B as the most powerful source of values such as beauty and goodness. Number 4, of the following, which is the best way parents can support the learning development of their children? A. We have buying materials for projects. B. Making calls on teachers. C. Interest and assistance in class assignments. And D. Checking report card grades. So you can see, letter D is quite impossible, or the first thing that we have to sort out, because it only happens 4 times a year. So 4 times a year mo lang i-check yung progress ng anak mo. So that's not good. Letter B, making calls on teachers. Teachers have more important responsibilities aside from answering the calls of the parents. So, medyo hindi din siya maganda. So, that leaves us with letters A and C to choose from. Now, the better one is letter A, buying materials for projects, because we can track the progress of our students then, and in that way, we motivate our students na gumawa pa and maging creative because ang materials na kailangan nila is complete. Number 5, Teacher Ernie makes sure that he covers the essential subject content while treating them sufficiency or in-depth. What guiding principle is he following for lesson preparation? A. Balance. B. Feasibility. C. Significance. And D. self-sufficiency. Let us go back with the question. It says that he covers all the essential, meaning all the significant, while treating them sufficiently. Therefore, there is a balance in his lesson preparation. Number 6. Which of the following is a quality of an engaging learning environment most reflective of education for all, or EFA? A. Improvise to enhance learning for all types of learners. B. Decentralized governance. C. Student-centered learning activities. D. Open communication for all teachers, parents, and students. EFA is all about, or it aims to give quality access to everyone, to young children, and even the adults. So the best answer would be letter A, improvise to enhance learning for all types of learners. Number 7, what is the main focus of the School's Mean Success, or SMS, concept for lifelong learning? A. School recognition and accreditation for success. B. Tapping students' potential for success. C. Pillars of instruction, research, and outreach for success. And D. Mission and vision of schools for success. Now, the main focus of School's Mean Success is para ma-develop, to help the students realize their fullest and maximum potential. So therefore, that leaves us with letter B, tapping students' potential for success. That is the main focus of the School's Mean Success concept for lifelong learning. Number 8, of the following interventions, which is directly aimed at responding to the transitional gap between academic achievement and employment? A. The regulation of tuition fees. B. Voluntary accreditation of schools. C. School networking with business and industry. And D. Identification of centers of excellence. Now, going back to the question, it says that intervention to the transitional gap between academic achievement and employment. Kung kaya't makikita niyo minsan may mga schools, sa mga colleges, they are inviting institutions, business institutions, or they are conducting job fairs para sa mga soon-to-be graduates ng school nila. And that is letter C, school networking with business and industry. Number 9, learning is influenced by social interaction and interpersonal relations. What must a teacher do? A. Make students work collaboratively. B. Motivate the students to reflect on how they learn. C. Make the students feel good about themselves. And D. Give more independent study. Ang unang-unang pwede nating tanggalin is letter C, because that is a no-no. We should not make our students or help them feel good about themselves. And letter B and letter D, on the other hand, is about independent learning. And going back to the question, it says social interaction and interpersonal relations. So that is letter A. The teacher must make the students work collaboratively. Number 10, which of the following refer to teamwork among teachers in classroom teaching? That is teamwork among teachers in classroom teaching. A. We have peer evaluation. B. Peer teaching. C. Peer discussion. And D. Peer assessment. Teamwork among teachers in classroom setting, that would be peer teaching. Number 11, which Republic Act provides government assistance to students and teachers in private education? We have A. RA 7784. That Republic Act is actually the act responsible for the creation of the centers of excellence in the country. While letter B, we have RA 7836. That is the act that prescribe the licensure examination for teachers. And then we have letter D, RA 6675, that is the act that has something to do with medicine and drugs and their generic names. So the act that provides government assistance to private education is actually letter C, RA 6728. Number 12. The constitutional provision on language has the following aims except A. To make the regional dialect as auxiliary media of instructions in regional school. B. To maintain English as a second language. C. To make Filipino the sole medium of instruction. D. To make Filipino the national language and medium of instruction and communication. The exception there is letter C. And what makes it wrong is actually the word sole medium of instruction. Number 13. The full or partial integration of capable deaf and blind students in the classroom is stated in which of the following constitutional provisions? A. Providing citizenship and vocational training to adult citizens. B. Protecting and promoting the right of all citizens to quality education. C. Academic freedom. And D. Creating scholarship for poor and deserving students. Now, going back to the question, it says that full or partial integration of capable deaf and blind students. So, aalisin natin si letter A. That's for adult citizen. And also letter C, academic freedom. Then you have D, creating scholarship for poor and deserving students. Hindi naman sinabi na capable deaf or blind sila. So that leaves us with letter B, protecting and promoting the right of all citizens, even the deaf and the blind students, to quality education. Number 14. Section 5, Article 14 of the Constitution states that academic freedom shall be enjoyed in A. Public assemblies, B. State colleges and universities, C. All levels of learning, and D. All institutions of higher learning. Now, let us talk about academic freedom. Academic freedom, it is, for example, yung mga estudyante sa college, they have the right to choose kung anong subject ang kukunin nila for a certain semester, kung anong block sila, and kung sino yung magiging teacher nila. Ganon. And ang academic freedom is para sa colleges, universities, conservatories, seminaries, and other higher institutions, kahit yung mga vocational schools, as long as it offers certification and higher degree. So, the answer here would be letter D, all institution of higher learning. Kasi nga kasama yung mga seminaries and such. Pero kung wala yan, the answer would be letter B, state colleges and universities. Number 15. In the preamble of the Code of Ethics of Professional Teachers, all of the following are true about teachers except A. Duly licensed professionals, B. Possess dignity and reputation, C. Let passers, and D. With high moral values. Kung babalikan natin ang Code of Ethics or ang preamble ng Code of Ethics for professional teachers, hindi doon nakasaad that a professional teacher must be a let passer. That is why meron tayong mga para-teachers, right? They are not yet passer of the licensure examination for teacher, but they are considered as teachers. They are teaching already. Number 16. A teacher discovers that the product of a certain bottling company brings about damage to teeth. Much as he wants to share the products of his research, he could not because of harassment from all sides. Which teacher's right is violated? A. Right to property, B. Right to one's honor, C. Academic freedom, D. Right to make a livelihood. Ang unang-unang matatanggal natin dyan is letter A, right to property, because wala namang property na binanggit. Then letter D, right to make a livelihood. Hindi naman ginagawang hanap buhay ng teacher ang pag-make ng research. Now we have letter B and C to choose from. But what is actually violated here is the right of the teacher to disclose the result or the information that he has gathered based on his research. And that includes in his academic freedom. That is letter C. Number 17, we have the main function of a philosophy of education is to A. Aid the learner to build his own personal philosophy. B. Reconsider existing educational goals in the light of society's needs. C. Provide academic background prerequisite to learning. And D. Define the goals and set the direction for which education is to strive. Philosophies such as essentialism, pragmatism, idealism, and marami pang ism, ang main goal lang naman nila, kahit student-centered man sila or learner-centered, ay parang mga estudyante ay matuto. And that is letter D. It defines the goals and set the direction for which education is to strive. That is the main function of those philosophies. Number 18. Which of the following abilities is stressed by humanistic education? A. Learn the different philosophies of education. B. Develop man into a thinking individual. C. We have enjoy the great works of man such as the classics. And D. Make man distinctly civilized, educated, and refined. The answer would be letter C. The humanistic education stress that the students should enjoy the great works, or people should enjoy the great works of man such as the classics. Number 19. Who among the following emphasize the processes of experience and problem solving? He is the one who says that or stress the importance of experience. A. We have Dewey. B. Hegel. C. Aristotle, and D. Plato. And the correct answer would be letter A. John Dewey. Siya yung nagsabi that experience is important para sa ang mga bata ay matuto. That's pragmatism. Number 20. Who among the following believes that learning requires disciplined attention, regular homework, and respect for legitimate authority? A. Essentialist, B. Perennialist, C. Progressivist, and D. Reconstructionism. Perennialism is about the classics. Parang naniniwala ito that we have to learn from, the learning is from older generations to the younger generations. Progressivism, this is student-centered. Inaalaw yung student na sila yung pumili. They have their own beliefs, they have their own way of acquiring knowledge. While Reconstructionism naman, it believes that the students has may magagawa. They have a part in transforming society. While Essentialism, parang meron ng set of common skills and knowledge na dapat matutunan. Sabi dito, it believes that learning requires disciplined attention, regular homework, and respect for legitimate authority. Those are the common skills and attitudes na kailangan daw. And that is Essentialism. Number 21. A teacher who subscribes to the pragmatic philosophy of education believes that experience should follow learning in her teaching. She therefore exerts effort in A. Encouraging learners to memorize factual knowledge. B. Equipping learners with the basic abilities and skills. C. Requiring learners full mastery of the lesson. And D. Providing learners opportunities to apply theories and principles. Now, let us take a look at the choices. The question is about pragmatic philosophy of education, or pragmatism, which believes that experience is very important. Letter A, encouraging learners to memorize factual knowledge. Hindi naman siya nagpo-provide ng experience sa teacher sa mga estudyante. So, that is a no-no. Now we have letter C, requiring learners full mastery of the lesson. Kahit ma-master pa yung lesson, if walang experience para sa pragmatism, hindi pa rin yun po pwede. Wala pa rin. So we have letter B and letters B and D to choose from. Now, the letter B, equipping learners with the basic abilities and skills only, while letter D, it says that providing learners opportunities to apply theories and principles. So what they have learned, they have to apply it. And that is the best answer, letter D. Number 22, the cultivation of reflective and meditative skills in teaching is an influence of A. Taoism, B. Shintoism, C. Confucianism, and D. Zen Buddhism. A. Taoism, it is a belief for the simplicity of life, simple living. Shintoism naman, it's the belief of the Japanese that their country is the most noble country as well as their people. C. Confucianism naman, it is by Confucius and it's about doing goodness. And letter D, Zen Buddhism, that is the answer because it is about reflection and meditation. Number 23, as a parent and at the same time a teacher, which of the following will you do to show your cooperation to a PTA project in your school to be financed with the proceeds of the sales of the school canteen where food prices are a little bit higher? A. Bring food for you and your children, but always make it a point to buy in the school canteen. B. Buy all your food in the school canteen, but request for a discount. C. Bring food enough for you and your children, but do not eat in the canteen. D. Buy all your food from the school canteen, even if you cannot afford to do every day. Clearly, the answer would be letter A. That is to bring food for you and your children, but always make it sure to buy in the school canteen. Just as a support sa PTA project. Number 24. The teacher would like to file a case against a principal because of sexual harassment. Which of the following measures should a teacher do without violating the relationship of the teacher to her superiors? A. Present the case before the competent authority and prepare to prove the charge. B. Write an anonymous letter to a higher school official to denounce the superior. C. Call a parent-teacher meeting and denounce the superior. And D. Encourage the other teachers and students to hold a demonstration to oust the superior. Letters B, C, and D are all unprofessional acts. Therefore, the best thing to do is to present the case before the competent authority and prepare to prove the charge. Number 25, the tendency to emphasize so much on school beautification to the detriment of pupils' performance illustrates the A. Filipinos' lack of seriousness, B. Filipinos' lack of reflection, C. Filipinos' sense of humor, and D. Filipinos' love for forma. It says there the emphasis is on school beautification. So that is Filipinos' love for forma. Letter D. Number 26. In what period of a child development is physical growth fastest? A. Prenatal period, B. Early adolescence, C. Early childhood, and D. Prenatal and early adolescence. Prenatal period, early adolescence, it is the period where the physical growth is the fastest. So the answer would be letter D. Prenatal and early adolescence. Number 27. The child cannot distinguish abstracts during the sensory motor period of development. Which of these techniques should a teacher apply to accommodate learning? A. Make use of individualized instruction. B. Explain the lesson very well. C. Utilize concrete objects to clarify concept. And D. provide variety of educational toys. Letters A and B, the use of individualized instruction and explaining the lesson very well, hindi ina-address yung problem, and that is, hindi makapag-distinguish pa yung bata ng mga abstract objects during the sensory motor period. So, that leaves us with letters C and D to choose from. But, letter D, it says that we have to provide variety of educational toys. Letter C is the better answer among the two, between the two, because it says that we have to utilize concrete objects to clarify concept until such a time na yung bata kaya nang makapag-unawa ng abstract concepts. That is letter C. Number 28. Freud expounded that there is a period when young boys experience rivalry with their father for their mother's affection. This is A. Oedipus complex, B. Electra complex, C. Achilles syndrome, and D. Cassandra syndrome. We have to sort letters C and D out dahil walang kinalaman yan. Now, we have to choose between A and B. B. Electra complex, that is actually the rivalry between the daughter and the mother for the father's affection. So, the answer here would be letter A, that's Oedipus complex. Number 29. A child refused to obey orders or displays negativism as a development trait. How may you best handle him? A. Take every opportunity to praise him for every positive attitude display. B. Detain him after office hours for him to do what he has been ordered to do. C. Insist on compliance to the same degree required of pupils. And D. Avoid giving him orders, or if you do and he objects, take back the order. Letter B, hindi maaari dahil sa mas hindi natin mamomotivate yung bata na ayusin yung behavior niya. Letter D naman, parang tolerance ito dun sa ugali ng bata. So we have letters A and C to choose from. But the best is letter A. We have to take every opportunity to praise him for every positive attitude display so that mamotivate siya na positive behavior yung gawin niya. Number 30. The tendency to imitate elders is very strong in the early childhood stage. Teachers should therefore be very good A. Counselors, B. Role models, C. Disciplinarians, and D. Facilitators of learning. The answer would be, since sinasabi doon that the tendency of the children at early childhood stage is to imitate elders, so therefore we have to be good role models, and that is letter B. 31. Which of the following may help an adolescent discover his identity? A. Parents pushing in to follow a specific path. B. Relating to people. C. Decision to follow one path only. D. Exploring many different roles in a healthy manner. Unang-una nating isa-sort out are letters A and C. Now we have letters B and D. Relating to people and exploring many different roles in a healthy manner. But the best answer is letter B because that is the best way for an adolescent to discover his identity. Number 32. Social development means the acquisition of the ability to behave in accordance with A. Social expectation, B. Stereotypes behavior, C. Social insight, and D. Universal norms. The best answer is letter A, to behave in accordance with what the society expects. Number 33. The way a child talks, walks, gestures may have been learned from models he have been exposed. This explains A. Affective, B. Social, C. Insight, D. Cognitive. The way child talks, walks, and gestures may have been learned from models he have been exposed. Therefore, that is social. Letter B. Number 34, a student collapsed in her social studies class. It was found out that he did not eat her lunch. What principle is shown in the situation? A. Psychological need. B. Physiological need. C. Somatotonic. And D. Safety need. It was stated that the student did not eat his lunch. That is why he collapsed in his class. So that is physiological need, the basic needs of human according to Abraham Maslow. Number 35. A student strives to work at a given task because of a need. Which of the following situations can make a student strive to meet his needs? A. Minimize the unpleasant consequences of student involvement. B. Utilize your own opinion as teacher in making final decisions in the classroom. C. Use unfamiliar materials as examples in order to initially arouse their curiosity. And D. Ask pupils to submit test questions or reactions from which you can select topics. The first option that we have to sort out is letter B. That is not student-centered. So, hindi rin motivate yung mga estudyante. Then, we have letter D. Ask pupils to submit test questions or reactions from which you can select topics. Teacher pa rin doon yung masusunod kung ano yung pipiliin niya. Now, we have letters A and C. Letter C, use unfamiliar materials as examples in order to initially arouse their curiosity, but it may lead to disappointment kapag hindi naayos na estudyante because the materials nga are unfamiliar para sa kanya. So we have letter A as the best answer, which we should minimize the unpleasant consequences of student involvement. Number 36. Which of these is the most important principle that a teacher should follow in initiating a program of positive reinforcement? A. Make sure the reward comes immediately after the appropriate behavior. B. Punish negative behavior and reward positive behavior. C. Provide regular opportunity for socially acceptable behavior. And D. Consider peer approval and recognition. Yung medyo hindi naman connected sa question are letters C and D. So, alisin na natin and now we have to choose between letters A and B. Si letter B, punish negative behavior and reward positive behavior. But let us go back doon sa question. It says that initiating a program of positive reinforcement. Therefore, that is letter A. We have to make sure that the reward, the best or the most important principle in reinforcement is that the reward comes immediately after the appropriate behavior. So that alam ng bata kung ano yung attitude or yung behavior niya na nag-cause para magkaroon siya ng reward. Number 37. In which way does heredity affect the development of the learner? A. By placing limits beyond which the learner cannot develop. B. By compensating for what the environment fails to develop. C. By blocking the influence of environment. And D. By providing equal potential to all. Again, yung heredity, it affects, so letter D, hindi pwede kasi kahit anong mangyari, heredity affects the development of the learner. So, letter D and letter C, we have to remove those options. We have now letter A and B. But, heredity, for example, yung magulang mo, hindi naman katangkaran. And then, the older generation, within class, ability grouping. Number 40. Teaching in the cognitive, psychomotor, and affective domains is based on the concept that the learner is A. A moral and feeling being. B. Material and an acting being. C. Thinking, feeling, and acting being. D. Spiritual and material being. The answer is letter C. Cognitive for the thinking, feeling is for the affective domain, and acting is for the psychomotor domain. 41. Which of the following is usually considered the most important factor in a child's observable classroom behavior? A. Intelligence, B. Heredity, C. Self-concept, D. Cultural background. Yung mga attitude ng bata, bago yan dinala sa classroom, nakuha na yun nila sa upbringing, sa pagpapalaki sa kanila. And that includes cultural background ng mga estudyante. So that is answer letter D. 42. What kind of literary works are very creative by way of descriptive language and dramatic episodes? A. We have fiction novels, B. Historical account, C. Biography, and D. Autobiography. Letters B, C, and D, all of those are narrative. So, hindi pwedeng narrative of real life. So, hindi pwedeng mayroong masyadong maraming descriptive language and dramatic episodes. So that leaves us with letter A, fiction novels, as the correct answer. Number 43. In Grace Goodell's skill ladder, which step should come last and only when needed? A. Using contextual clues, B. Using parts of a book, C. Using the dictionary, and D. Using phonetic analysis. According to Grace Goodell, ang pinakahuli daw dapat nating gawin kapag hindi na talaga kaya is to use the dictionary. That should come last. Number 44. How will you make a child memorize the table of multiplication from the point of view of Pavlov? A. Make them understand the meaning of multiplication. B. Call the child's attention every time you recite the table for them. C. We have modal recitation of the table of multiplication. And D. Reward the child with a candy for every correct recitation. Pavlov's theory is the classical conditioning. Letter D, that is reward, and that is not about classical conditioning. That's not what classical conditioning is all about. Letter C, modal recitation, that is social learning. Then we have letter A, make them understand the meaning of multiplication, that is cognitive. So that leaves us with letter B. That is an example of classical conditioning. We have to call the child's attention every time they recite the table. That is letter B. Number 45. In Piaget's stages of cognitive development, what is the preschool age in which a child's intelligence is intuitive, able to make mental representation, and close the use of symbols? A. Formal operational stage, B. Concrete operational stage, C. Sensory motor stage, and D. Pre-operational stage. Going back to the question, it says that what is the preschool age? Therefore, that is the pre-operational stage of development, and that is letter D, in which symbolic function ages 2 to 7 years old, in which the ability of the child is to represent objects and events. A symbol is a thing that represents something else for them. Number 46. In Piaget's concrete operational stage in cognitive development, which refers to the ability to order or arrange things logically on dimensions such as weight, volume, or size. A. Conservation, B. Reversibility, C. Decentering, D. Seriation. Conservation, it is the ability or the realization of the children that objects remain the same even if they made to look different. Decentering naman, it is their ability to view objects on different classification. And D. Seriation, it is the ability to arrange things logically. So the answer is letter D. 47. In Piaget's concrete operational stage in cognitive development, which refers to the ability of the child to perceive different features of objects and situations, such as toughness in stone, elasticity in rubber, and etc. A. We have decentering, B. Seriation, C. Reversibility, and D. Conservation. Those are the example of decentering. Letter A. Number 48. In Piaget's formal operation stage in cognitive development, which of the following is not among the characteristics of the child's thinking ability? Formal operational stage. A. Logical thinking. B. Abstract problem solving. C. Hypothesis making. And D. Knowing properties. A, B, and C are all characteristics of a child in a formal operational stage. Now, that leaves us with letter D, characteristic to ng child doon sa mga early stages of development nila. So, that is the exception. Number 49. Following Kohlberg's theory of moral development, what is the moral reasoning or perspective of Joy who allows her classmate to copy her test work so that she will be her friend? A. Social approval. B. Punishment stage. C. Obedience stage. D. Law and order. Again, the stem of the question says that Joy allows her classmate to copy her test work so that gawin siyang friend ng classmate niya. Therefore, that is a manifestation of social approval stage. Letter A. Number 50. Among the following questions, which is not applicable to metacognition? Metacognition is a thinking about thinking. So we have A, how will I know if I am learning at an appropriate rate? B, did I understand what I just read or saw? C, do I know what I need to know? And D, what factual information have I retained? Letters A, B, and C are all higher order thinking skills kind of question. They are HATS question. Therefore, and they allow the children, to think about their own learning. Therefore, that leaves with letter D, that is not a metacognitive question. What factual information have I retained? It is just a remembering kind of question. 51. Among components in the instructional framework for learning strategies, which is demonstrated by teacher Jeannie, who worked together with her students on a skill or task and figure out how to apply the skill. A. Independent practice. B. Guided practice. C. Consolidation. D. Review. There's no review there na nangyari. Consolidation, wala din. So, that leaves us with letters A and B to choose from. But going back to the question, it says that teacher Jeannie worked together with her students. And therefore, that is an example of guided practice. Letter B. Number 52. John Dewey said, an ounce of experience is better than a ton of theory. To which does this statement point? A. The need for theory. B. The need for experience. C. The primacy of experience. And D. The primacy of theory. Para dun sa statement niya, ay kahit katitingin na experience, mas maganda pa kaysa sa napakaraming theories or concepts na alam ng student. Therefore, for him, experience is the primarily needed ng mga estudyante. That is letter C, the primacy of experience. 53. Someone said, experience without theory is blind, but theory without experience is mere intellectual play. This means that A. Theory and experience must go hand in hand. B. Theory is more important than experience. C. Experience is more important than theory. D. One can stand without the other. Of course, letter D is not the answer. As well as letter B and letter C. Wala namang sinabi kung ano yung mas better. But, it simply means that theory and experience must go hand in hand. And that is letter A. Number 54. Learning is influenced by social interaction and interpersonal relations. What must a teacher do? A. Make students work collaboratively. B. Motivate students to reflect on how they learn. C. Make students feel good about themselves. And D. Give more independent study. The question ask about social interaction and interpersonal relations. Therefore, letters B and D, those are all for independent learning, are not the answer. We have letter C, make students feel good about themselves. That is a negative situation. So we have letter A as the correct answer. We have to make students work collaboratively. Therefore, they would be able to develop their interaction skills and interpersonal skills. 55. Which of the following refer to teamwork among teachers in classroom teaching? A. Peer evaluation. B. Peer teaching. C. Peer discussion. D. Peer assessment. We have already discussed this, and the answer is letter B. Peer teaching. 56. Of goals of education, which relates to the strengthening of our society's sense of belonging and identity. A. Autonomy. B. Enculturation. C. Moral character. D. Citizenship. Again, going back to the question, it says that strengthening the society's sense of belonging and identity. And that is letter D, citizenship. 57. In the implementation of the curriculum at the classroom level, ineffective strategies are called red. Which of the following belongs to the red flag? A. The integration of problem solving. That is good. Letter B. Available enrichment activities. Letter C. Content applied to real-life situations. And letter D. Overemphasis on drill and practice. Letters A, B, and C are all good. Therefore, hindi siya pwedeng masali sa red flag. Letter D, naging negative lang siya because of the word overemphasis on overemphasis. Therefore, that is the answer. Letter D. Number 58. What does the traditional curriculum and mass education lacked that the progressive curriculum can deliver? A. Authoritarian role of the teacher. B. Collective discipline. C. Value for individualization. And D. Rigid system of grading. Yung wala nung traditional pa yung curriculum natin na meron daw ngayon. And that is letter C, the value for individualization. That is why merong mga tinatawag na differentiated instruction, and kung kaya ngayon masyadong ina-emphasize yung multiple intelligences and the different learning styles of the students. Number 59. Among Unit 10 components, to what cluster do models, replicas, charts, graphs, and specimens belong? These are all instructional materials. Therefore, it belongs to letter A, resources and materials. Number 60. Among the following terms in technology, which has the broadest concept of technology for the whole educative system? A. Computer technology. B. Audiovisuals. C. Instructional technology. And D. Educational technology. Among the four options, the broadest term or the broadest concept is actually letter D. Educational technology. The remaining three are all under that. 61. While there is modernity and progress through the use of technology in instruction, what is the greatest danger along the domain of learning that is posed by technology? A. Using technology to fill in lesson gaps. B. Using technology to lighten up lessons. C. Developing passivity and uncritical minds. D. Developing visual and audial orientation. Ang hinahanap natin is the negative or the side effect ng use of technology in education. Letters A, B, and D are good. Now, sa letter C, it says that through technology, sometimes the learners become passive, and that is true. And they are not thinking critically anymore because for them, their information is just one click away. So the answer is letter C. Number 62. What is aroused among viewing learners by dramatic educational films in what is known as cliffhangers? Cliffhangers are movies or stories that leaves the viewers to decide on what would be the ending of the story. A. Relevance. B. Significance. C. Satisfaction. D. Expectancy. The answer is expectancy. Number 63. Of the following effects on learning, what is the effect of assigning various sections of the newspaper and allowing choice depending on the learner's choice? A. Changing attitudes and feelings. B. Reinforcing learning. C. Allowing different interests. And D. Encouraging participation. Basically, letter A is not the answer dahil wala naman siyang kinalaman sa tanong. Now, among the three, reinforcing learning and allowing different interests and encouraging participation, the best answer is letter C. Kasi nga, the students get to choose the topic that they wanted to work on. Number 64. Which of the following is an acceptable teacher effectiveness practice? A. Setting of objectives rather than outcomes. B. Directions given sparingly and delivered casually. C. Classroom routines done early in the school year. And D. Planning done following monitoring of learning. Laging sinasabi that as teachers, we should establish rules and routines at the beginning of the school year for a better classroom management so that susunod na doon yung mas magandang flow ng teaching and learning. Therefore, the most acceptable here is letter C. The only acceptable is letter C. Classroom routines should be done early in the school year. Number 65. When classes began, teacher then asked student in pairs to interview and introduce each other to the class. How will this activity be classified according to Edgar Dale's cone of experience? A. Purposeful experience. B. Verbal symbols. C. Dramatized experience. And D. Demonstration. Of course, ang unang-una nating tatanggalin would be letter D. Hindi naman sila nag-demo. Letter C, the students did not do any dramatization as well. That leaves us with letters A and B to choose from. But it is actually an experience, a direct experience of the student to interview each other, and that is letter A. Number 66. How can lessons be made more meaningful by way of learning continuity? A. Add value to content. B. Introduce new content. C. Stress retention of facts. D. Relate present with past lesson. Para daw mas magawa natin, para sa mga estudyante, mas meaningful yung learning for them, it is important that we as teachers should relate the new lesson to their previous schema, yung kung ano na yung alam nila. And that is letter D. We have to relate the present with their past lesson so that yung learning nila ay continuous lang. Number 67. How can new information be meaningful to students? A. By valuing new knowledge. B. Relating it to knowledge they already know. C. Demonstrating novelty of new knowledge. And D. By increasing the retention of new knowledge. This is somehow similar with the previous question. And of course, the answer would be letter B. By relating the new information to the knowledge that they already know. Number 67. Number 68. Of the following classroom activities, which best relate to child visual learning and development? A. Drawing and coloring. B. Singing and acting. C. Textbook reading. And D. Games and sports. The question is about the development of child's visual learning. Of course, we have to remove singing and acting as well as letter D, games and sports, and the options. So that leaves us with letters A and C. But between the two, drawing and coloring has more activities kung saan the visual learning or the visual ability of the child would be more developed. And that is letter A, drawing and coloring. Number 69. Among cognitive objectives, what refers to the transfer of knowledge from one concept to another? This is Bloom's cognitive taxonomy. A. Synthesis. B. Application. C. Analysis. D. Comprehension. Comprehension is just understanding. Analysis, it is breaking a whole into parts. And then synthesis, out of parts, the students will be able to create something new. Then the answer for that would be letter B. That is application, the transfer of knowledge from one concept to another. Number 70. Among cognitive levels of thinking, what cognitive level is stressed by the essay question? In the light of the facts presented, what is most likely to happen when A. Inferring, B. Classifying, C. Applying, D. Analyzing. The question, in the light of the facts presented, what is most likely to happen when, the question actually wants the children or the students to infer, to make a conclusion. And that is letter A, inferring. Number 71. Of skills teachers should understand and students need to acquire, which is the ability to monitor and modify thinking, as well as deal with ambiguous or unclear information without getting frustrated. A. Focusing, B. Sharpening, C. Tolerance, and D. Narrowing. Una nating maaalis dyan are letters B and D, sharpening and narrowing, dahil wala naman. So we have to choose between focusing and tolerance. But the best answer would be letter C, tolerance. Students are able to, or the teachers and the students both are able to tolerate ambiguous information without getting disappointed, without getting frustrated. Number 72. Which aspect of multi-intelligence is enhanced by asking students to work on a physical model of the atom after a teacher's discussion on the subject of the atom? A. Interpersonal, B. Kinesthetical, C. Mathematical, and D. Linguistic. Again, going back to the question, it says the students work on a physical model of the atom. Therefore, that is about skills, manipulation, and that belongs to letter B, the kinesthetical intelligence. Number 73. What is the primary advantage of active learning techniques such as discussion, role play, and gaming in instruction? A. Higher order thinking, B. Problem solving, C. Student engagement, and D. Focus on questions, not answers. These techniques, discussion, role play, and gaming, ginagamit natin to karamihan as teachers, diba, sa motivation part. And our purpose is to engage the learners or to get the attention of the learners before discussing. Therefore, that is letter C, student engagement. Number 74. Of the approaches to classroom management, which involves a variety of techniques and methods of ranging simple rewards to elaborate reinforcement, example, praise or rewards. A. Behavioral modification approach, B. Group management approach, C. Business academic approach, and D. Assertive approach. Assertive approach, it is when halimbawa the teacher is discussing and then there's a student who gets noisy. Sasabihin ng teacher, ipo-point out ng teacher yung student na yon, that you have to listen to me. Then letter C, business academic approach. It is when the teacher goes beyond lecturing for the sake of the student. Like for example, kapag absent yung student, yung teacher magte-text sa parents and all. Pag group management approach naman, it is the getting the focus or the attention of the group. Now, therefore, the answer would be letter A, behavioral modification approach. It is when sa halip na sabihin natin yung mali na bata, yung maling behavior, minomodify natin yun. Like, pag maingay, sasabihin mo, ikaw, wag kang maingay and all. That is letter A. 75. If threat or punishment is necessary on erring students, how should this be done? A. First a warning before the threat. B. Make the threat with immediate punishment. C. Make the threat and reinforce with warning. D. Warn and threat at the same time. Kapag nagpa-punish tayo ng student, ang unang-unang gagawin is that hindi yung tipong parang na bigla lang yung mga estudyante. The principle there is to warn first before making a threat and punishment. So that is letter A. 76. What is being assessed by the rubric that seeks to assess high, moderate, or low imaginative thinking? A. Aesthetic. B. Creativity. C. Appeal. D. Craftsmanship. Again, the rubric assess imaginative thinking, and imagination belongs to the creativity. That is letter B. 77. Among written categories of assessment methods, what instruments did science teacher Julian use when he prepared a list of behavior that make up a certain type of performance in the use of a microscope? A. Observation and self-report. B. Written response instruments. C. Product rating scale. And D. Performance test. Going back to the question, it says there that teacher Julian prepared a list of behavior. Therefore, those are the criteria na prepare niya for a certain type of performance in the use of microscope. Therefore, basically, that is a performance test. Letter D. 78. Using extrinsic motivational assessment, what could be the noblest motive in students pursuing a lifetime work and mission for the teaching profession? A. Promise of higher rank and prestige. B. Social service to upcoming generations. C. Economic security and welfare. D. Respected position in society. If hindi natin uunawaing mabuti ang question, our answer would be letter B, social service to upcoming generations. Because again, that is the most noble nga naman. Kanya lang, going back to the question, it says extrinsic motivation. Letter B is an intrinsic motivation. Therefore, that is out of the options. We have letters A, C, and D. But among the three, promise of higher rank and prestige, you're aiming for power and fame. Letter D, respected position in society. Your aim is for the people to respect you. Between the three, or among the three, the most noble among the three extrinsic motivation would be letter C, that is economic security and welfare. 79. Of the following, which is not a characteristic of the response journal that reflects observations and interpretations of the student, such as on a reading material or a field visit? A. Encourage risk-taking. B. Literary and grammatical. C. Open and factual. D. Non-threatening. It says that it's a response journal, meaning it's a narration of the student of what happened during the field visit or his or her feelings upon reading a material. So, basically, nandoon si literary and grammatical aspect. Then, it would be open and factual kasi the student could write anything that he or she wants, whatever or whatever the student is feeling at the moment. And then, it is also non-threatening kasi nga, open yung estudyante kung ano yung gusto niyang ilagay. So, therefore, ang hindi kasama doon is the encouragement for risk-taking. And that is letter A. 80. What is the criterion reference test designed to determine? A. Performance level on a specific skill. B. Performance on a wide content of coverage. C. Attaining a personal target. D. Performance higher than other members of the group. There are two types, right? The norm reference and the criterion reference. Norm reference, it is your performance base doon sa performance ng iba. Your performance is being compared to the performance of the rest. While criterion reference, there is a criteria na yung performance mo ay gina-judge base sa a certain criteria. And therefore, that would be letter A, performance level on a specific skill or criterion. Number 81, interpreting assessment results, which is described when the results are consistent. A, reliability, B, subjectivity, C, validity, D, objectivity. Validity is about yung assessment, mini-measure niya talaga what it intends to measure. Then, subjectivity and objectivity, hindi yan kasama sa pinagpipilian natin. We're choosing between A and C. And therefore, that is letter A. Reliability is about the consistency of the scores of the students. Number 82. Since teacher Alvin wants his test to be more reliable, which of the following should he adopt? A. Make a test that requires students the need for more time to complete. B. Make the test difficult. C. Increase the number of test items. D. Restrict range of abilities in the test. Pag mag-aalis tayo ng options, the first option that we have to remove is letter D, the strict range of abilities in the test. And then letter A as well, make a test that requires students the need for more time to complete. Hindi dahil matagal na tapos na mga estudyante ay reliable na ang test. We have to choose between letters B and C. But between the two, the more appropriate would be letter B. It is making the test difficult. But see to it that the difficulty is not too high or not too low. A reliable test is that not too easy and not too difficult naman. 83. Which measure of central tendency is most reliable when scores are extremely high and low? A. Median, B. Mode, C. Mean, D. Cannot be identified unless individual scores are given. Of course, letter D ay wala sa choices. Hindi natin pwedeng pagpilian sa letter D. Alisin na natin yan. Now, there are three measures of central tendency: the mean, median, and the mode. The least reliable is the mode. Ginagamit lang to para sa mga nominal type of data. So, hindi siya pwede kapag scores ang pinag-uusapan natin. Nominal data are like, for example, yung number ng jersey ng mga basketball players, that's nominal. Number siya pero wala namang value. And then mode, that is the most frequently occurring score. Kung ano yung laging nauulit or laging nag-occur na score. Then the mean, that is the most reliable. However, the mean is affected by extremely high and extremely low scores. So, the answer here would be letter A, median. Kapag mayroong extremely high or low scores, ang pinakamagandang gamitan na measure of central tendency would be median and not the mean. Number 84. Which is a characteristic of the following score distribution? Given are the scores, the highest is 98 and the lowest is 1. A, no discernible pattern. B, trimodal. C, skewed to the right. D, bimodal. Hindi pwedeng sabihing skewed to the right because hindi naman natin nakikita yung graph. And hindi rin pwedeng no discernible pattern because if we're gonna look into the scores ng maayos, we can see that meron naman. And that is, ang 93, it happens thrice as well as the score na 34. Therefore, sila yung mas maraming beses na naulit. Therefore, yun yung mode natin. We have two modes, 93 and 34. And therefore, the distribution is bimodal. Bimodal kapag two modes, one mode is unimodal, and trimodal kapag there are three modes in a distribution. Number 85. What is the normal curve in the grade distribution of students in a class? A. All have average grades. B. Most get average grades, few high and low. C. Most get high grades. And D. Most get low grades. When we say that a distribution is normal, it means that the mean, median, and mode are all equal. However, hindi natin pwedeng sabihin na lahat ay nakakuha ng average grades. So kapag the distribution is in a normal curve, therefore, we can say that most of the students get a average grade and only few get high and low scores. Number 86. What can be said of student performance in a negatively skewed class score distribution? A. Most students performed well. B. All students had average performance. C. Few students performed well. And D. Most students performed poorly. First, let us talk about the skewness. Negatively skewed and a positively skewed distribution. Kapag normal distribution yon, hindi skewed, the mean, median, and mode are all equal. Therefore, ang itsura ng magiging scatter diagram natin would be nasa gitna yung bulk. But kapag positively skewed distribution is said to be skewed to the right. And ito yung itsura niya. Dahil skewed to the right siya, ito nandito, that is our mode. Kasi ibig sabihin, kaya dito siya lumawa is because karamihan ng scores ay dito matatagpuan. So, ito yung mode natin. Then, median would always be in the middle. Then now, our mean is nandito. So, kapag sinabi yung positively skewed, that is skewed to the right. And then, our mean is higher than the mode. Kapag positively skewed. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Dahil karamihan ng scores ay naandito, ibig sabihin karamihan ng estudyante ay mababa ang performance or they perform poorly. Now, kapag negatively skewed naman, it is the distribution that is skewed to the left. So, it looks like this one. Dito yung bulk ng scores. So, nandito yung mode natin. Karamihan ng scores ay dito matatagpuan. Now, the median is also in the middle. And our mean is in here. So, kapag negatively skewed, sasabihin natin that the mode is higher than the mean. Okay? Now, since nandito ang karamihan, or nandito yung lobo ng diagram, ibig sabihin nandito karamihan ng score, dito yung mode natin. That means that most of the students ay nakakuha ng mataas na score. And konti lang yung mababa ang score. So, going back to the question, number 86, what can be said of student performance in a negatively skewed class distribution? It means that most of the students perform well. And that is letter A. Number 87, which is true when the standard deviation is big? A scores are spread out, B scores are not extremes, C the bell curve shape is steep, D scores are concentrated. Standard deviation as well as a variance are measures of variation or how the scores are spread out in a distribution. Therefore, kapag malaki ang standard deviation, ibig sabihin nun ay ang mga scores ay mas malalayo sa isa't isa. So, the answer here would be letter A, scores are spread out. Number 88. What does it mean to state that the difficulty index of a test item is 1? A, the test item is extremely easy. B, the test item is not valid. C, the test item is very good and should be retained. D, the test item is very difficult. Now, a difficulty index range from 0 to 1. If the difficulty index is 0 to 0.19, it means that the test is very difficult. Kapag naman 0.20 to 0.79 or 0.80, it means that moderate or average lang yung difficulty niya. Kapag naman 0.81 to 1, it means that the test is very easy. So, in here, the answer would be letter A, since the difficulty index given is 1. The test item is extremely easy. Number 89. It is quite the same with number 88. What does the test mean if the difficulty index is 1? Therefore, that is B, very easy. Number 90. What does it mean when the determination index of a test item is negative 0.35? Determination index or discrimination index tells us if the item is discriminating or not. Discriminating, and a discriminating item means that na-discriminate niya yung higher group from the lower group. So A, we have more from the upper group got the item correctly. B, the test is quite reliable. C, more from the lower group got the item correctly. D, the test item is valid. We have to choose between letter A and letter C. If the determination index or discrimination index is negative, it means that hindi siya nakapag-discriminate ng maayos. Meaning, sa halip na yung mga nasa higher group, yung makakuha, yung mas marami nasa higher group na makakuha ng tamang sagot is baliktad ang nangyari. More students from the lower group got the items correctly. And that is letter C. If the discrimination index is positive, the answer would be letter A. More from the upper group got the item correctly. Number 91. What does it mean if student Pete got a 60% percentile rank in class? A, he scored better than 60% of the class. B, he got 60% of the test items correctly. C, he scored less than 60% of the class. And D, he got 40% of the test wrongly. Percentiles are the 99 score points which divide a distribution into 100 equal parts. So for example, your score is in percentile 45, hindi ibig sabihin doon that your percentage is 45%. It only means that 45% ng mga estudyante or score sa distribution is mas mababa sa iyo. So, nasa tanong, ang percentile na given is 60. It means that the student scored better than 60% of the class or 60% of the class ay mas mababa sa score ni Pete. And that is letter A. 92. A positive correlation is the direct correlation. To what relation is negative correlation? A, indefinite relation, B, inverse relation, C, definite relation, D, neutral relation. Kung ang positive correlation ay direct ang relation nila, ang negative correlation naman, that is inverse relation. Letter B. 93. This is connected with number 92. What is the meaning of a negative correlation between the amount of practice and number of error in tennis? We're talking about negative correlation, meaning there is an inverse relation. A, the decrease in the amount of practice sometimes affects the number of errors. B, the increase in the amount of practice does not at all affect the number of errors. C, the decrease in the amount of practice goes with the decrease in the number of errors. And letter D, as the amount of practice increases, the number of errors decreases. Kung titingnan natin yung choices, yung mga options, ang may only inverse relation dyan is letter D. And that is actually the correct answer. As the amount of practice increases, the number of errors would decrease. Letter C, decrease in the amount of practice goes with a decrease in the number of errors. It shows a positive correlation or a direct relation. So 93, that is letter D. 94, what is the graphic illustration for the relationship between two variables? A, normal curve, B, histogram, C, frequency polygon, and D, scatter diagram. The answer in here would be letter D, scatter diagram. Number 95. Among standardized tests, which reveals strengths and weaknesses for purposes of placement and formulating an appropriate instructional program. A. Achievement test, B. Competency test, C. Diagnostic test, and D. Personality test. Take note of the word strengths and weaknesses. Ang test na nag-measure or the test that helps the teacher know the strengths and weaknesses of the students is actually called diagnostic test, and that is letter C. 96. What kind of assessment helps teachers determine gaps in learning a subject matter? A. Formative assessment, B. Diagnostic test, C. Summative assessment, D. Placement examination. Placement examination is used para malaman kung saan i-group yung estudyante. Then, summative assessment naman, it is done after the instruction. Example nito yung quarterly assessment. Then, B. Diagnostic test, it's to determine the strengths and weaknesses of the student. Therefore, the kind of assessment that helps the teachers determine the gaps in learning a subject matter is formative assessment. It's done before, during, and after. Ang ginagawa yun para malaman kung natuto na ba yung estudyante or not, or kung gaano ka-ready yung mga estudyante to learn a new lesson. Number 97. An entering student in college would like to determine which course is best suited for him. Which test is appropriate for this purpose? A. Achievement test, B. Diagnostic test, C. Intelligence test, and D. Aptitude test. Entrance exam falls under the aptitude test category. Number 98. Tests should be non-threatening. But which of the following actually threatens the students? A. Self-record of test scores, B. Surprise quiz, C. Scheduled exam, D. Submission of report. Scheduled exam, hindi nakakapag-prepare din yung mga estudyante. So, among the options actually, yung nakaka-threaten talaga sa mga estudyante would be letter B, surprise quiz. Number 99. Which of the following is the major advantage of using arithmetic mean? A. It is more commonly used than other measures, the mode and the median. B. It discriminates between the lowest and the highest. C. It is simple to compute. And D. It is more stable than the median. The answer here would be letter D. Kasi nga, among the three measures of central tendency, the most reliable is mean. It is more stable, more reliable than the median, as long as there are no extreme scores. Number 100, the last number, in preparing classroom test, which of the following checklist is the last among steps in test preparation? A. How are the test scores to be tabulated? B. Have I prepared a table of specifications? C. How are the test results to be reported? And D. How is the objective item to be scored? Among those four options or four questions, ang pinakalas na dapat nating i-consider as teachers would be letter C. And that is on how the test results would be reported. So that would be all. I wish that this recording would help you in your preparation for the upcoming LET exam. I wish you good luck and I hope to see your names on the list of passers and top-notchers. Thank you!
Your favorite informative multimedia news platform, Cbrc News Live,
It's now on YouTube.
Cbrc News Live,
Cbrc News Live.
Cbrc News Live,
Cbrc News Live.
Cbrc News Live is now on YouTube.
Click here.
Click here.
click here.
Click here.
Click here to subscribe.
Are we ready for the board exam? Papasa ba? Papasa lang ba? Ayan, so again, here is Iza Pascual, a proud product of Cbrc Lawag, and I will be lecturing on your Cbrc Analytical Final Coaching Professional Education naman tayo ngayon. Ayan, so ina-emphasize ko na final coaching na siya. Meaning, eto na, konting mga araw na lang ang lilipas at magsusor na kayo towards your what? Kailangan nyo nang isurpass ang ating board exam. And I believe na kayang-kaya nyo yan at malay natin, yung isa dyan na nakikinig or dalawa or tatlo or lima or malamang lahat kayo ay mag-top sa ating board exam. Kaya ba? Last take nyo na ba to? Ayan, so mag-start na tayo kung ganon. Madali lang ba ang ating analytical Prof Ed? For the FC, madali lang ba siya? Kayang-kaya na? Ayan, so maganda na binasa nyo siya lahat at saka nasagutan nyo siya lahat. Kasi that would mean na prepared na kayo for the board exam. Yung the way na in-arrange ng CBRC yung ating mga materials, tapos from numbers to the test-taking part, ganun na ganun din sa ating actual board exam. Ganun yung experience, ganun din yung yung booklet na pag-aanuhan ninyo, babasahan nyo ng mga tanong. So for number 1, it says there, the whole child concept of education is contrary to the. Kapag nabasa natin yung contrary, this means what? Contrary or parang, taliwas siya sa whole child concept tayo, So when we say whole child concept, we are into developing the child as a holistic individual. Overall development. This pertains to all areas or all aspects are being considered. So if that's the case, alin yung kalaban ng whole child? Is it the progressivist? No, kasi nga ang whole child holistic, that is not a traditional view of, or that is not a traditional concept. So for letter B, that would not be the answer. How about C? Focus on the disadvantage approach to education. Have you heard of that? Disadvantage approach? O how about D? Mental discipline approach to education. O pag mental discipline, ano siya? Practice kasi yan. Tapos, strict, tayo sa pag-practice ng ating mga mental capacities. How about academic essentials approach to education? Is that the answer? Gaya ng sabi ko kanina, when we say whole child concept, all areas of the child are being trained. While for academic essentials approach, meaning sa academics lang nakafocus yung approach or yung concept. So, meaning that is very contrary to whole child concept. Therefore, what will be our answer for number 1? Tama is letter A. So, the answer for number 1 is letter A. Moving on. The current emphasis on the development of critical thinking by the use of philosophic methods that emphasize debate and discussion began with who? Sabi dyan, debate. Critical thinking. Kay Aristotle ba yan? Sa kanya ba yan? Hindi. Kay Socrates ba yan? Bakit? Kay Confucius ba siya? Kay Plato ba? Kay Plato? So the answer there is, sabi dyan, debate. Sabi dyan, critical thinking. Sa kanilang apat, ang pinakamahilig sa debate, tsaka sabi nila, lagi lang siya sa streets, doon sa kanilang place noon, is Socrates. That's why we have your Socratic method. Or yung magtatanong, dig ng dig, or hukay ng hukay, tanong ng tanong. It's your Socratic method by Socrates. That's why the answer for number 2 is Socrates. Ayan. It emphasizes debates. Nakuha? Number 3 naman tayo ngayon. What is a simple frequency distribution? Madali na lang yan kasi bonus question. A graphic representation of what? A simple frequency distribution is a graphic representation of your raw score. scores. Very good. How about number 4? It says here, which refer to a single word or phrase that tells the computer to do something with the program or file. Kung mapapansin natin, bonus question yan, kahit hindi ka maano sa EdTech. Kasi tignan mo, computer should do this or do that. The computer should do something with the program. Therefore, the computer is giving what? Is giving direction or command. So, the answer for number 4 is your command. Bakit hindi password ang sagot? Kasi for password, those are the keys required for you to open something, 'di ba? Sa isang computer. Computer program, alam, yan naman yung mga softwares natin, ganyan. So, hindi na siya computer program. And yun. Basta tatandaan kapag it requires a computer to do something, it's your command. Ayan. So, si command, para siyang sinanay, na anak, gawin mo to, ganyan. Tapos si anak naman, para siyang computer program. Ganon siya, yung relationship nila. Moving on. Number 5 na tayo. What is the mean of this score distribution? Now, mean yung tinatanong dito. Kapag nakikita nyo yung mean, ano yung natatandaan nyo about the mean? For mean, we are pertaining to the average. Paano naman kapag median? Median. Middle. Ano yung nasa middle na value? Paano naman kapag mode? Kapag mode naman, ang natandaan lang, frequently appearing score or it's talking about your frequency. Now, it says here, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What is the mean? So, i-average nyo lang siya. So, i-add nyo siya lahat divided by the number of the scores presented. 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10 equals 49 divided by 7. Therefore, we have the mean of very good 7. So, wag nang pakawalan yung maganyang katanungan kasi kayang-kaya nyo siyang isolve. Number 6. Teaching approach for kindergartens that makes real-world experiences of the child the focal point of educational stimulation. Ano siya? This is an approach for kindergarten. And may mga schools tayo na ipinangalan na din sa ganitong approach. Kasi yun yung gamit nilang approach. Ano siya? Alright? For kindergarten, is it applicable yung situational approach? Yung traditional. Your kindergartens are very playful. How about the eclectic approach? Kung mag-eclectic approach tayo, kung meron mang eclectic approach, medyo malilito din yung mga kindergartens, di ba? Kasi, they are still too young. How about Montessori approach? Your Montessori approach by Maria Montessori, is it all about real-world experiences? So therefore, what's the answer? It is Montessori approach. Ayan, sa Montessori approach din, as in ang organize ng kanilang school setup setting. Naka-set up talaga siya sa real-world experiences. So that is your Montessori approach. Number 7. Which graphic organizers are used to show events in chronological order? Alin dyan yung nagpapakita ng mga events in chronological order? So, when we say chronological order, na-arrange siya according to what? The way na nangyari yung events. Look at letter A, timeline and story map. Timeline, that's very good. It's in chronological order. Pero for your story map, is that all about a graphic organizer showing chronological order? Story map? Hindi. For your story map kasi, yan lang i-shoot mo siya. Who is the characters, settings, ganyan. How about timeline and series of events chart? Series of events chart. Is it talking about chronological order of events? Yes, they are. Both of them, timeline and series of events. How about series of events chart and story map? Nandiyan na naman si story map, so hindi ulit. How about timeline and cycle? Ano nga ba yung cycle? Why do we have your water cycle? For water cycle, okay. Basta pag cycle kasi, umiikot siyang ganun. Hindi siya yung arrangement of, events. Pa ganun siya halimbawa. Sa cycle kasi, paikot-ikot siya. So, the answer for number 7 is letter B. Now we have your number 8. Which schools are subject to the supervision, regulation, and control by the state? Ano siya? Anong schools ang under the regulation and control by the state? Public school lang ba? Public schools lang ba? No. Sectarian and non-sectarian schools lang ba? Siyempre hindi. Private schools lang? O by the state? Hindi. Lahat ng yan. Public, private, non-sectarian schools, they are all under the regulation and control of the state. Nakuha? So, the answer is letter D. O, number 9. Which one can help students develop the habit of critical thinking? When we say critical thinking, ano siya? Pag critical thinker, yung isang bata or learner, yan na yung mga marunong ng magrason. Tapos, hindi sila agad-agad na naniniwala. Kailangan na nila ng mga evidences. Ganun sila. So, when we say we would want to help student develop the habit of critical thinking, or would we want the student to obey? Just obey me. Something like that. Blind obedience of authority. I-obey mo ako kasi nga ako yung nakakataas. Parang ganyan yun. Obey lang ng obey. Is it A? No. Is it asking convergent questions? Convergent questions, are they open-ended questions or close-ended? O, how about C? Asking low-level questions. Pag low-level questions, meaning mga literal comprehension checks lang. O, is that developing the critical thinking? Na-exercise man lang ba yung utak nila dyan? O how about D? A willingness to suspend judgment until sufficient evidence is presented. O what made letter D correct for critical thinking? May naka-mention kasi dyan na evidence, sufficient evidence presented. And as I have mentioned, for critical thinkers, they would believe you if you are presenting the evidence to them. Nakuha? So for number 9, the answer there is letter D. O, how about number 10? Number 10 says, in instructional planning, which among these 3? Ay, 3 ang tigas. 3 pala. Unit plan, course plan, lesson plan is the most specific. Alin dyan yung pinaka-specific? This is a bonus question already. O, pag unit, malawak pa yan. Pag course, malawak din. Kapag lesson plan, malawak pa ba yan? Yung unit tsaka course plan kasi, aabutin tayo ng mga ilang araw, di ba? Eh, yung lesson plan. O, it's basically, normally, we have your daily lesson plans. Ganyan. So, it's more of your lesson plan. Siya yung mas specific sa kanilang tatlo. It's letter D. O, number 11 na tayo. Developmental reading. Teacher Mar wants to develop in her pupils comprehension skills. What order of skills will she develop? Comprehension skills. Yung gustuhang i-develop ni Teacher Mar. So, alin dyan yung arrangement? Of course, we will have first your literal comprehension. For literal comprehension, mga naka-explicit or naka-mention or madali mong mahanap sa text mismo. And then we have your interpretation. O, nga pala, sa literal comprehension, tatandaan, reading the lines. Interpretation, reading between the lines or your implied comprehensions. How about critical evaluation? For your critical evaluation, kaya nga critical, di ba? Kasi you take a careful look on the elements and styles used by the author. So, that is level 3. And then for integration, integration is falling on your reading beyond the lines. And then for integration, this includes your, after mong mabasa yung halimbawa isang paragraph, at feeling mo pwede mo siyang i-apply sa real life, then there goes your integration. Integration din yung acceptance of what you are reading. Parang ganun siya. So, for that, ang ating order ng comprehension skills ay literal, or reading the lines, interpretation, reading between the lines, critical evaluation, or careful look, or careful check, and then integration, or your application. So, those are the 4 levels of your comprehension skills. So, the answer is letter C. Nakuha? O, number 12. An integrative conceptual approach introduced by Roldan as its highest level is the development of blank thinking skills. So, kung titignan natin, related pa din siya sa question ng number 11. And since we are looking at the highest level, kahit hindi pa natin kilala si Roldan, makukuha na natin yung sagot. At ano ang sagot dyan? Literal ba? Hindi kasi level 1. Critical ba? Hindi kasi mas may mataas sa critical na nabigay. Interpretative ba? Hindi. How about creative? Creative is the answer. Kasi sa creative, there goes again your synthesis. O, nakuha? 13. If a student thinks about thinking, this is a bonus question. Thinking about thinking, learning about learning, knowing about knowing, what's that? It's your metacognition. Very good. So, the answer for 13 is letter D. How about 14? It says here in 14, the use of drills in the classroom is rooted on Thorndike's law of... ito na si Thorndike. Sabi dyan, use of drills. Kapag nagdi-drill tayo, meaning paulit-ulit si teacher. Nagpa-practice. Bakit nagpa-practice? Para ma-exercise. Bakit ina-exercise? Because the teacher wants mastery. Alright, so what law of Thorndike is that? It's law of exercise for mastery. Ganyan siya. So, kapag naman law of readiness, sa isang classroom, halimbawa yung bata, ready siyang mag-recite at pinag-recite mo siya, then the effect would be satisfactory. Pero kapag hindi mo siya pinag-recite at ready siyang mag-recite, the result is disappointment. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, kapag nung nag-demo kayo, nung practice teaching at may gustong mag-recite pero hindi nyo pinag-recite, halos super simangot na siya kasi nga, ready siyang mag-recite pero hindi mo siya pinasagutan or pina-recite. So, that is your law of readiness. Now, for your law of effect, kapag satisfactory yung feeling niya nung naka-recite siya, ang tendency is, syempre, uulitin niya. O ano bang ginagawa natin kapag nasasarapan tayo sa pagkain? Di ba? Nagtitake two tayo. So, ganun din sa ating law of effect. Kung kasiya-siya yung naging epekto nito, uulitin lang din yan ng bata. So, those are the major laws of learning according to Thorndike's readiness, effect, exercise. So, kapag ngayon na paulit-ulit kayong nagre-review, that is under your law of exercise. Ngayon, kapag ready na kayong sagutan ng ating board exam, that is your law of readiness. At ngayon, kapag nag-top kayo sa board exam, that is your law of effect. Ayan. And ang tendency, gustuhin yung maging lecturer ng Cbrc at mag-engage ulit sa mga questions or let questions. Ayan siya. So, for number 15, the following are some drill technique except. Alin dyan yung hindi naman drill technique? Look at B. Drill technique ba yan? Siyempre, may repeat. I-insert ka lang repeat. Look at C. Giving short quiz and having students grade papers. Short quiz. Bakit magpapa-short quiz? Sa short quiz, nauulit-ulit eh. So, it's falling under drills. So, that is not the answer. How about exercises? Sabi natin kanina, yung exercises is falling under your drill. So, ang letter D, hindi na yan ang sagot. How about A? Challenging students to be above the level of the class. It's not talking about drills. It's not talking about exercises or repeating. So, therefore, the answer for 15 is letter A. Ayan, nakuha. 16. The process of task analysis ends up in the formulation of what? Kapag sinabi nating task analysis, our main goal is to set goals and objectives. Therefore, sa ating task analysis, parang ine-engage natin yung sarili natin sa ano bang type ng learning yung gusto kong ihatid sa aking mga learners. That is your task analysis. You are analyzing and articulating the kind of learning that you would want your learners to experience, to know, to perform, to do. Therefore, ano yung output when we are doing task analysis? We are looking at or looking for your behavioral objectives. At ano na nga ba ulit ang characteristics ng isang behavioral objectives? It should be SMART, S, M, A, R, tsaka T or time-bound. 17. For holistic learning, it is urgent to utilize both sides of the brain. The affective as well as the cognitive. The logical along with the rational ba? Hindi na rational kasi may cognitive na na-given. Musical ba? O, kapag musical, nakaano lang sa isa yan eh. Hindi. How about intuitive? Intuitive ba siya? Logical nga yung isa. So, sabi dun kasi sa una, affective, tapos cognitive. Next is logical, and ano yung partner niya? It would be behavioral. Nakuha? O, 18. It has something to do with history. The first American teachers in the Philippines were, tanda na, yung tanong, American teachers. Hindi na isasagot syempre ang, elementary graduates. Hindi na rin isasagot ang missionaries. How about graduates of the normal school? Syempre, hindi pa din. How about soldiers? Because the answer is soldiers. A. The first American teachers were the soldiers. 19. By which process do children become participating and functioning members of society by fitting into an organized way of life? By which process? May word tayo doon, society. I want you to encircle that again. Kasi, dyan, pagtingin mo pa lamang dyan, alam mo na kung ano ang sagot. Paano? It's through socialization. No? By participating and functioning members of the society. We call that process your socialization. Ano naman yung ating acculturation? Ano siya? When we say acculturation, it's about learning a culture out of yours. Yung ibang culture sa pamamagitan ng interaction. Ano naman yung kapag culture mo, yung yung aaralin mo, that is inside your culture, that is enculturation. Kaya nga siya tinawag na enculturation. How about when we say accommodation? Kapag naman accommodation kasi, usually ginagamit tong term na to kay, tawag dito kay Piaget. Kasi for accommodation, we are creating new schema. I-accommodate mo nga siya eh. Now, for assimilation naman, people come to share in a common culture. Ganun naman sa assimilation. 20. The teacher wants to check the prior knowledge of his pupils about water pollution. So, si teacher, ang ginawa niya, nagsulat siya ng pollution sa gitna ng board. Inencirclean niya. And then, sabi niya, mag-provide nga kayo ng information tungkol dito. So, nagganon-ganon na siya. Ano kaya yung ginawa niya? Is it demonstration? Is it vocabulary building? Or is it deductive teaching? Basically, the answer there is semantic mapping. Because the teacher, sine-check niya yung previous knowledge ng mga bata tungkol sa water pollution. Semantic mapping, semantics. What is water pollution for the kids? So, that is letter C. Ayan, so 21 na tayo. Sabi dyan, who were the Thomasites? I guess narinig nyo na yan sa ating world history, tama? So, sino nga ba yung mga Thomasites? So, yes, they are the first American teacher recruits to help establish the public educational system in the Philippines. The answer for that is letter B. Ayan po. And yes, nakasakay sila sa barkong, U.S. Transport Thomas. That's why they are called the Thomasites. Not necessarily that they are the devotees of St. Thomas Aquinas. The answer is letter B. Huwag tayong malilito sa option C and option D. Nakuha? So, the answer there is B. 22, it says here, the right hemisphere of the brain involved with the following functions except ang ating daw right hemisphere ay nasa aling activities or functions nakafocus. O, tama. Non-verbal ba? Tama. Visual ba? Tama. Sa kanya rin yun. Intuitive function. Sa kanya rin ba yan? Tama. So, the answer there is detail-oriented functions. So, ang ating right hemisphere, nakafocus siya sa nonverbal, visual, and intuitive. Nakuha? 23. To build a sense of pride among Filipino youth, which should be done. Tandaan na, ang gusto nating i-develop ay yung sense of pride or yung pagka-Pilipino, ipagmalaki yung sariling atin. So, going back to the choices, restudy our history from the perspective of the colonizers. Is that building a sense of pride? Sa view ng mga Amerikano daw natin tignan ng ating history. O, mga Espanyol. Sa mga colonizers nga, syempre hindi. Kaya nga nila tayo nasakop, di ba? Kasi, alam na. How about C? Replace the study of folklores and myths with technical subjects. Hindi ba part ng ating pagka-Pilipino ang ating mga folklores tsaka mga myths? How about D? Set aside the study of local history. Local history. Bakit mo naman siya i-set aside, di ba? How about A? Restudy our history and stress on our achievements as a people. Stress tayo sa achievements natin bilang mga Filipino. Yun yung punto ng letter A. Is that building pride among us? O, syempre, oo. The answer there is letter A. Restudy our history and stress on our achievements as a people. Nakuha? 24. Specialization is knowing more and more about less and less. Then it is better to be a generalist, claimed the teacher. On which philosophy does the teacher learn? Sabi niya, specialization is knowing more and more about less and less. Then it is better to be a generalist. So kapag generalist yung view ni teacher, nasa ang philosophy siya? Progressivism ba? Generalist. O hindi. Perennialist ba siya? Hindi. Existentialist ba siya? May choices ba na nakalagay? So, the answer there is letter A. Essentialism. Kasi nga, generalist generalist view. O, 25 naman. Which teaching activity is founded on Bandura's social learning theory? Kay Bandura tayo, social learning theory. Kung maaalala nyo, kay Bandura yung ating Bobo doll experiment. Anong nangyari sa video? Dun sa Bobo doll. So, for Bandura, pag maririnig nyo or mababasa nyo na si Bandura, automatic na yan na sa kanya yung observation, imitation. So, therefore, kung ano yung napapanood daw ng bata, yun daw yung kanyang ginagaya. Therefore, Bandura is emphasizing on modeling. Tama. So, it's modeling. Yan ay kay Bandura. Moving on, 26. I like to develop the synthesizing skills of my students. Alin naman ngayon ang gagawin ko para ma-develop ang kanilang synthesizing skills? Tandaan kapag synthesis, creating, generalizing, concluding, basta yung mga tipong pagko-combine na lahat ng mga natutunan nila to create something. So, that is your synthesis. O, is it direct my students to point out which part of the graph are right and wrong? Is that about synthesizing? No. How about C? Asking my students with what-if questions. Synthesizing kaya siya? How about D? Tell my students to state data presented in the graph. State the data presented in the graph. Is that synthesizing? How about A? Ask my students to formulate a generalization from the data shown in the graphs. Bakit letter A? Bakit kayo umoo sa letter A? It's because of the word generalization, di ba? And sabi nga dyan, meron ng data na nakapakita sa graphs. Ang gagawin na nga lang ng mga bata ay magsisynthesize. So, letter A is the correct answer. Synthesizing yan. Kasi they will form a generalization from the data shown. Nakuha? 27 naman. Sabi dito, to reach out to clientele who cannot be in the classroom for one reason or another, which of the following was established? O, sa kadahilanan daw na hindi makapunta sa classroom ang isang client, ano yung naisipan ng gobyerno na gawin or project para at least makapag-aral pa din sila? Is it your informal system? Is it your SPED system? Preschool education? Or is it your ALS? Ano ba yung ALS? It's your alternative learning system. And why are they established? Because of, the ones who could not attend or go to school. So, the answer there is letter D or ALS. 28. Nicole enjoys games like Scrabble, anagrams, and passwords. Which type of intelligence is strong in Nicole? O, ang favorite na laruin daw ni Nicole, Scrabble, anagrams, passwords. Pagkakita nyo pa lang yan, ano kaya tungkol saan yung mga games na yan? O, tama, word. O, vocabularies. So, meaning, si Nicole ba ay may interpersonal intelligence? Si Nicole ba ay may logical and mathematical intelligence? Or si Nicole ba ay may linguistic intelligence? O di kaya meron siyang spatial intelligence? What's the answer? The answer is C, linguistic intelligence. Siyempre, words, grammars, it's linguistic na. 29. Teacher Cora observes cleanliness and order in her classroom to create a conducive atmosphere for learning. And which theory is her practice based? O, cleanliness and orderliness in the classroom. Conducive learning environment. Therefore, sa atmosphere ng learner or sa environment ng learner. Therefore, nasaan siyang ano yan? Anong pumapasok sa isip niyo kapag manipulating the environment towards a desired behavior or to maximize learning? Well, it's under your behaviorism. Tandaan lang yan na kapag environment, manipulation of the environment of the learner, that is falling under your behaviorism. Ang psychoanalysis kasi, kanino ulit yan? Kay Freud. And for psychoanalysis, we are, sa mga center of pleasures. Kapag naman humanistic psychology, humanism, holistic training. How about 30? Which learning principle is the essence of Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences? Theory of multiple intelligences. Almost all learners are linguistically intelligent. Sabi nga doon, multiple intelligences. So, samot-saring klase ng intelligence. So, hindi lang siya sa linguistic. So, hindi siya A. Learners have different IQ level. IQ level, sabi dyan So, meaning, siya? Sa utak lang siya depende. Learners have static IQ. Static lang bang IQ ng mga bata? O, how about B? Intelligence is not measured in one form. Is that the principle of the Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences? Yes, intelligence is not measured in one form only. Ilan na nga bang forms yung present ni Gardner? At ano yung pinakabago? It's your existential intelligence. 31. For 31, it says here, which objective in the affective domain is in the lowest level? Affective domain. Ano yung nasa lowest level nito? Is it A, to support viewpoints? Support. Meaning nag-action ka na. Support ka na To respond? Meaning nag-answer ka na. Or is it to formulate criteria? Look at B, C, and D. They have something to do of, para siyang, sa B, C, and D is na-accept mo na yung objective niyan. So, nag-take ka ng action, which is you supported, you responded, and formulated. So, are they at the lowest level kung ganon? May action lang kasama So, hindi. Look at A, to accumulate examples of authenticity. Is that at the lowest level? Nag-accumulate lang siya, meaning nag-accommodate. Kumuha lang siya, nag-accept. So, that is at the lowest level, and that is letter A. Kasi para siyang receiving. Sa receiving phase pa lamang siya. Number 32. Which is in accordance with the with-itness principle of classroom management by Kunin. Kung ating maaalala, ano na nga ba yung with-itness? Yun yung tinatawag na, yung kapag si teacher, kahit nakatalikod ako, alam ko kung anong ginagawa nyo. May mata ako sa likod ko. Sabi niyang ganyan. Ngayon, ano yung punto ng with-itness? A, B, C, or D? Sabi alam ko kung anong ginagawa nyo kahit pa nakatalikod ako at nagsusulat sa blackboard. Kasi may mata ako sa likod ko. Therefore, it's pertaining to letter B, or the teacher is fully aware of what is happening in his classroom. So, for 32, the answer is letter B. Who got the correct answer? Have you got it? 33 na tayo. Below the questions that must be considered in developing appropriate learning activities, which is not a consideration. Bale, sa tanong na to, lahat daw ng ito kailangang i-consider kapag nagde-develop or nagpaplano ka ng learning activities. Pero may isa dyan na hindi. So, hahanap tayo ng hindi. Can the experience benefit the pupil? Should we ask that? Anong benefit ang makukuha ng mga pupils? Should we consider that? Yes. How about, do the experiences encourage pupils to inquire further? Ika-consider ba natin yan? Kasi parang encourage pupils to inquire further, meaning, are we stimulating the interest of the learners toward the topic na yan So, D is a consideration. How about, are the experiences in accordance with the life pattern of the pupils? Kailangan ba yung tanungin? Yes, kailangan po natin yung tanungin kasi life patterns of the pupils, meaning, those activities are activities which the learners could relate to para maging meaningful yung experience. Do the experience save the pupils from learning difficulties? Letter B, is that a consideration? Letter B, hindi. Letter B is the answer. Ayan, syempre, hindi mo kailangan laging sinesave yung mga bata sa difficult activities because difficult activities would give them challenge para mas maging determined sila na para humanap ng solusyon. Kasi kung paragi na lang na easy-easy yung activity mo, edi wala din silang matututunan, no? 34. Which is a characteristic of an imperfect type of matching type of test. Tandaan, sa matching type of test, kailangan ba homogeneous? Yes. Sa matching type of test, kailangan ba unequal yung number ng responses sa premises? Or sa premises? Oo. Kailangan ba naka-arrange sila in logical orders? Of course. Kailangan ba nasa iisang page lang sila yung ating matching type of test? Yes. Kailangan ba brief lang sila? Yes. Look at A. An item may have no answer at all. Is that imperfect type of matching test? May have no answer at all. Pwede, pero let us see if that is the best answer. An answer may be repeated. Imperfect ba yan? Hindi rin. Pwede rin kasi yan. Nangyayari din kasi yan. How about D? The items in the right and left columns are equal in number. Are equal in number. Is that a characteristic of an imperfect type of matching type of test? Pwede, pero hindi siya yung best answer. So, halos lahat ng choices dyan ay maaaring maging sagot. Pero alin dyan ang pinakamatimbang? Ang best answer for that is there are 2 or more distractors. Kasi di ba nga sabi sa atin, for matching type of test, kailangan may isang pasobra dun sa kabila, di ba? So, pag 2 or more distractors na, edi wala, nagkandalito-lito na yung magtitik ng exam. Paano na lang pag 5 distractors yung nilagay mo? Nagkataon na sa vocabulary siya. So, 34, for 34, the best answer in that case is letter C. Nakuha? Nakaka 34 over 34 na. 35, which is a proactive management practice. When we say proactive, ano siya? ini-implement mo ba siya before or after or during? What is the sense of having your proactive management practice? For proactive management practice kasi, gusto mo is ma-prevent yung further problems. So what should we do then? What should we do? We should, or are we gonna tell them that you enforce the rules? No exceptions. Medyo harsh siya, medyo sobrang strict na siya. How about letter B? Set and clarify your rules on the first day. Is that good? How about punish the misbehaving pupils in the presence of their classmates? O di parang nagpapahiya ka na nun, di ba? How about letter D? Penalty for every violation. Alin yung pinaka appropriate na sagot? It's more of letter A. Set and clarify your rules and expectations on day 1 pa lang. Para unang pa lang, kita, alam na nila. Read number 36, yung kanyang statement. That type of statement is classified as what? Hypothesis ba yan? Prediction ba yan? Isa ba yung finding? It's more of experiment. Letter A siya, experiment. Yung hypothesis tsaka prediction, medyo ginagamit siyang, magka-partner yan, halos magka-meaning din sila. Kapag kasi nag-hypothesize ka, you're giving an educated guess. Kapag nagpre-predict ka, guess din yun. Kapag findings, dapat nakalagay na dyan. After the conduct of the research, so hindi naman. Kaya this statement is falling under experiment. Nakuha? 37. Which quotation goes with a proactive approach to discipline? Ano na nga ulit yung proactive? It is used to prevent further problems. So, is it do not make a fountain of a mole? Walang connect. Walk your talk. Walang connect. Do not smile until Christmas. Napakawalang hindi siya talaga konektado. How about A? An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Sabi doon, prevention. I-encircle yung prevention. Kasi siya talaga yung nakapag-correct ng letter A. Letter A is the answer. Proactive approach is connected to the quotation, and ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. So, for 37 is letter A. 38. You have presented a lesson on animal protective coloration. At the end, you ask if there are any questions. There are none. You can take this to mean that. Di ba minsan, kapag after a lesson, yung ating mga teachers nagtatanong kung naintindihan nyo ba? May mga katanungan ba? Minsan sumasagot tayo ng hindi. Pero pag nakatalikod na siya, ano na nga yung, di ba may instances na ganyan siya. So, kung ikaw yung teacher at ganyan yung nangyari, magka-conclude ka ba na hindi interesado yung mga bata sa lesson? Hindi. So, A is not the answer. Iisipin mo ba na hindi talaga nila naintindihan yung prinisenta mong lesson? O hindi rin. So, B is not the answer. Or letter C, magko-conclude ka ba na naintindihan nila lahat ng pinagdidiscuss mo? Hindi rin. 'Di ba? So, look at letter D. Is that a good action for a teacher? You need to ask specific questions to elicit responses. Letter D is the answer. Kasi nga, di ba, nagtanong siya, naintindihan ba? Walang sumagot. Or may sumagot ng, pero wala, there are none. Yun yung sagot nila. May hindi ba kayo naintindihan? Wala po. May tanong ba? Wala po. So meaning, baka nahiya lang sila. Ang gagawin mo ngayon as a teacher, magbato ka ng specific questions para matest mo kung naintindihan ba talaga nila or hindi. Di na isahan nyo yung mga estudyante nyo, di ba? 39. What does the principle of individual differences require teachers to do? Andito na naman si word na individual differences. And when we say individual differences, ano siya? Are we giving less attention to gifted learners? No. So that is not the answer. Are we preparing modules for slow learners in class? Yun kaya? Yun kaya yung pinaka-principle niya? hindi siya guarantee, di ba? How about C? Treat all learners alike while teaching. Pwede, pero siya kayong pinaka-principal niya. Or how about B? Provide for a variety of learning activities. O, yan yung pinaka-principal ng ating individual differences. The teacher should consider the principle of individual differences in order to provide a variety of learning activities which will address these differences. Nakuha? So, for 39, that is more of letter B. Yan. 40. Teachers are encouraged to make use of authentic assessment, which goes with authentic assessments. When we say authentic assessment, ano na nga ulit yung ating mga clue words? We have your tangible, real world, real setting, ganyan siya. So, is it letter A? Kung ganon. Tangible ay authentic assessment, Is it B? Unrealistic na nga. Hindi na yan ang sagot, syempre. How about C? Answering multiple choices. Test items. Hindi na rin. How about D? Real-world application of lessons learned. Is that the answer? Sure kayo? So, the answer is letter D. Real-world applications of lessons learned. O, 41 na tayo. I'd like to test whether a student knows what a particular word means. O, bilugan yung word na means. Nais kong malaman kung alam ba niya ang kahulugan ng salitang ito. Oh, ano dapat yung gagawin? Letter A ba? Give the word a tune and then sing it? O, hindi na. Or, give the etymology of the word? Meaning lang yung tinatanong, hindi yung etymology, di ba? Spell the word and identify the parts of its part of speech. Pag ba pinagawa mo yan, na-define na ba niya yung word? Hindi. So, anong sagot? Letter B. Definition also means meaning. Ayan, so 41 is B. 42. Who asserted that children must be given the opportunity to explore and work on different materials so that they will develop the sense of initiative instead of guilt. So, kung makikita natin, meron tayong dalawang words na pinagpares. Initiative tsaka guilt. So, siguro, there is this what we call crisis. Initiative versus guilt. O, ano siya? Kay Kohlberg ba yan? Kay Erickson ba yan? Sure kayo. Kay Maslow ba yan? O baka kay Gardner? Alright? Kay Erickson siya. Initiative versus guilt. So, we have your 8, developmental crisis. So, kay Erickson is your socio-emotional theory. Next, 43. Teacher then uses direct instruction strategy. Alin yung uunahin niyang gawin? Mag-pre-presentation ba siya agad? Mag-i-independent practice ba agad ang mga bata? Mag-guided student practice ba sila agad? Or magre-review muna sila ng ginawa nila kinahapunan? So the answer is letter D. Next, we have here 44. The free public elementary and secondary education in the country are in line with the government effort to address educational problems of, free public elementary and secondary. Productivity ba yan? Hindi. Relevance and quality ba yan? Hindi rin. Is that pertaining to access and quality? Yes. Is that pertaining to effectiveness and efficiency? Hindi rin. So, the answer there is access and quality. Kaya nga siya free Kapag free siya, anong napapansin nyo? Mas dumarami yung customers. Or yung mga nag-iikot doon sa pwesto kapag may mga free teas, mga ganyan-ganyang bagay. So, what more, if you are pertaining to education, di ba? It's for access and quality kasi free public elementary and secondary. 445. Sabi dyan, ito yung mga row scores. Meron tayong mga row scores. Ay, grabe. Ang pinakamataas is 97. Ang pinakamababa, 1. May nakascore pa ng 2, 5, Pero yung mga highest, 97, 95, 85. Ayan yung raw score sa isang quiz. Ngayon, to get a picture of the group's performance, which measure of central tendency is most reliable? Alin ang pinaka-reliable na measure of central tendency kapag ganyan ka-extreme yung mga scores? I mean, extreme na extremely high, extremely low. Diba? Nakita mo yung mga samples? So, pag ganyan yung case, yung mga outliers nila is wagas, the answer would be median. Median ang pinaka-reliable na measure of central tendency. Nakuha? Ayan. Next, 46. Which one holds true of anecdotal records? Ano ba yung mga anecdotal records? Di ba may mga schools na naggaganyan? Anecdotal records. Lahat naman natin ng school merong ganyan. Combining facts with interpretation ba? Describing behavior in natural setting ba? Or describing behavior in laboratory setting? Writing objective, descriptive behavior with a case ba? For 46. Because the answer there is letter B. Writing objective, descriptive behavior with case. Ayan. 47. For mastery learning and in line with the outcomes-based evaluation model, which element should be present? O, sa OBE tayo alin dapat yung present kung OBE lang din ang pag-uusapan? Is it A, inclusion of non-performance objectives? Non-performance objectives daw. Siyempre hindi. Is it the non-provision of independent learning? Independent learning. O siyempre, considered pa din yan. I mean, non-independent learning. O how about construction of norm reference test? Siya ba yung pinaka? O, let's take a look at letter B. Construction of criterion reference test. Siya ba? Construction of criterion reference test. Because the answer there is criterion reference test. Construction of criterion reference test. Since outcomes-based tayo, syempre, we would check on the outcomes, the products, the performances. Therefore, we need criterion reference test. Kasi for criterion reference test, we have your standards or competencies. Oh, how about 48? Which statement about standard deviation is correct? Standard deviation. Alin dyan ang pinaka-correct at related sa ating standard dev? O, sa standard deviation, tatandaan lang na the higher the standard deviation, the more spread the scores are. Nakuha? So, kung mas mataas yung ating standard deviation, mas magkakalayo-layo yung mga agwat ng mga scores. Yan lang yung tatandaan when we say standard deviation. Alright? O, 49. The principal tells her teacher that training in the humanities is most important. Humanities. Kung natandaan natin sa history, humanities is all about what? Arts. Ano pa? Ano pa? To which educational philosophy then is the principal adhering? Existentialist ba? Binigyan niya ba ng choices yung mga teachers? Training in humanities is the most important, sabi niya. Meaning, hindi na niya binigyan ng option yung mga teachers. So, hindi siya existentialist. Progressivism ba yan? O, hindi rin. Essentialism ba yan? Maaari. Perennialism ba yan? Hindi masyado. So, the answer here is letter C. Essentialism siya kasi humanities. And when we say essentialism, we are going back to the, ano nga ulit? Basics, essentials. O, next, 50. The Filipino learner envisioned by the Department of Education is one who is imbued with the desirable values of a person who is ano? Ay, nako, nasa ano natin to Panatang makabayan ba yun or yung isa? O, so it's makabayan, makatao, makakalikasan, at saka, syempre, maka-Diyos. The Filipino learners are envisioned to be makabayan, makatao, makakalikasan, at maka-Diyos. 51 na tayo. Alex exhibits fear response to freely roaming dogs. O, sa 51, sabi dyan, takot si Alex sa mga nakawalang aso. Pero dun sa mga nakatali or nasa kulungan, hindi naman siya takot. So therefore, alam niya yung pinagkaiba nung nakatali or nakakulong sa hindi. At alam niya kung sa alin siya matatakot. O therefore, anong conditioning process yung pinapakita sa atin ni Alex? It's very good discrimination. It's a bonus question. Number 52. The main purpose of compulsory study of the Constitution is to... Our Constitution is to be studied compulsory because they wanted us to develop students with responsible thinking citizens. Therefore, the answer for 52 is letter A. Very good. 53. With which goals of educational institution as provided by the Constitution is the development of work skills aligned? O, bilugan ang work skills. Kasi pagkakita pa lang yan, mapapaisip ka na. Work skills, meaning technical, vocational, related. So, alin dyan? Letter ano? It's letter B, to develop vocational efficiency. Very good. 54. Which one is in support of greater interaction? Greater interaction na, is it repeating the question all over again? Is it not allowing a student to complete a response? Ay, hindi, mas talong hindi mag-i-interact ng mga estudyante pag ginawa mo yan, di ba? O probing. Ano ba yung probing? Selecting the same student as respondents. Ay, kung ako yung estudyante mo at ginawa mo yan, edi mawawalan ako ng gana na mag-respond. So, for 54, the answer there is letter C. 55. To encourage introspection, which teaching method is most appropriate? When we say introspection, it's more of a reflective process. Kasi self-ano siya sa introspection. So, for 55, the answer there is letter B, tama. 56. I want the fast learners in my class to do self-directed learning. What strategy will I use? O, yung mga mabibilis matuto sa klase ko, gusto ko silang para magkaroon na ng self-directed learning. O, so ano siya? Collaborative ba dapat sila? Self-directed nga. Social dialogue ba? Self-directed nga. O, metacognition ba? Pwede. Problem-based learning ba? Problem-based. Pwede. Pero rin dyan yung mas. C or D? It's C, metacognition. O, 457, which may help an adolescent discover his identity. Identity tayo. So, alam na kung ano yung ating hinahanap pa. It has something to do with roles or expectations of that individual. Kasi nga identity. O, parents pushing in to follow a specific path. Is that adolescent discovering her identity if that's the case? No. Relating to people. Wala din masyado. Decision to follow one path only. One path only, discover nga. Di ba pag nagdi-discover tayo, we try different opportunities, ganyan. O, is letter D, exploring many different roles in a healthy manner. Siyempre, kahit nag-explore ka, kailangan healthy manner pa din siya. O, 58. Sabi sa Code of Ethics, under no circumstance shall a teacher be prejudiced nor discriminatory against any learner. Ngayon, alin dito yung example ng teacher prejudice? Nag-ano siya? Masyado siyang discriminatory. Is it A? Pinapaupo niya yung mga nearsighted sa harap. I, that is not discriminatory. When he considers multiple intelligences para sa kanyang teaching strategies. O, hindi rin yan discriminatory. When he makes far-sighted pupils seated at the back, discriminatory ba yan? Hindi rin. How about D? Tinanggihan niya yung isang bata kasi may disability siya. O, that is the answer. Very discriminatory yan. O, which of the following is considered a peripheral device? Alin daw dyan ang isang peripheral device? When we say peripheral device, these are the devices na pang-input tsaka output na din. So, dito sa mga choices, ang pwede natin isagot ay printer at saka keyboard. So, for 59, it's A or B. Nakuha? 60. Which term refer to teacher helping a colleague grow professionally? O, sabi dyan na tinutulungan niya yung kanyang katrabaho or co-teacher. Ano siya? Is it independent study? Facilitating? O, peer mentoring? Tama, peer mentoring yan. Nakita na nga colleague eh. Eh di peer na yung isa, sagot natin, di ba? O, number 61. Which among the following objectives in the psychomotor domain is at its highest level? Oh, look at A. Distinguish distant and closest sound lang. Hindi. Contract a muscle. Aba, mahirap ba yan? Or highest level ba yan? Hindi rin. Run a 100-meter dash. Highest ba yan? O, to dance the basic steps of the waltz. Highest ba yan? Yes is the answer. So, the answer is letter D. O, 62. Which one should teacher avoid to produce an environment conducive for learning? Alin dyan yung hindi dapat gawin ni teacher? Kasi, pag ginawa niya yan, medyo hindi na nagiging conducive para sa bata yung pag-aaral. O, games, tests, and individual competitions, they are considered ways to for conducive learning. Bakit, now we are left with seat plan. Bakit seat plan? Sabi nila, sa isang research, yung millennial learners ngayon, they love to explore. So, at saka they are very active. Gone are the days na most of your, or majority of your students are mapapaupo mo sa isang sulok. Because millennial learners love to explore. They are very active. So, para sa millennial learners, hindi nakatakataka na may mga bata na palipat-lipat ng upuan, na may mga bata na minsan nakailata na lang sa sahig or ano. So, sila yung mga learners ngayon na hindi mo mapapaupo sa isang sulok lang. They're very active. Ayan. Now, seat plan ang sagot dyan. Seat plan kasi, pag seat plan, hindi mo alam kung yung pinaupo po pala sa chair na yan ay farsighted pala. Hindi mo alam kung yung pinaupo mo doon sa likod ay meron palang hearing disability. Hindi mo alam na sa pagpapaupo mo pala sa bata sa likod ay medyo ayaw niya doon na pwesto kasi nga likod. Parang, di ba iba-iba tayo ng parang learning style. So, ganun din sa isang classroom at saka mga bata yung iyong ini-involve. Mas okay kung mga bata ang mamimili na kung saan sila uupo. Diba? Kasi doon, mas mamamaximize at makaka-focus sila kasi pinili din nila yung seat na yon. So, the answer is 62 is B. O, 63. For individual differences, paanong dinesign ang curriculum? O, minimum learning lang ba? Realistic and meaningful experiences are provided ba? O, it's letter, ano siya? Individual differences tayo. Paano dinesign si curriculum? Kung ganon. It's letter C. Some degree of flexibility is design. Flexibility and the curriculum. Kasi nga iba-iba sila eh. O, 64. When a significantly greater number from the lower group gets a test item correctly, this implies that the test item is what? O, sa lower group daw, ang dami nang nakakuha sa test item na yan. Ibig sabihin yan, reliable pa ba yan? So, the answer there is letter B. It is not highly reliable kung madaming nakakuha na nasa, nandoon sa lower group. B is the answer for that. 65. And act as the, Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994. Bonus question yan. Republic Act number 7836. 66. Learning has taken place when a strong bond between stimulus and response is formed. So meron ng strong bond between your stimulus and response. Therefore, ano na siya? Ano yung finalo niya? Strong bond. Sabi dyan, May strong bond na dyan. So, may clue na kayo. The answer then is connectionism. Meron kasing connection between the stimulus and response, kaya strong na yung bond. Nakuha? 67. According to Osobel, one of the ways to strengthen the student's cognitive structure is by using an instructional tool called what? Kung matatandaan nyo, si Osobel, siya yung meaningful learning theory. Sa kanya, yung visual imagery, advanced organizers. So basically, what's the answer for Osobel? Advanced organizers. Mas nagiging strong daw yung pag-retention kapag meron tayong advanced organizers. 68. Thorndike tayo. Madali lang to. Thorndike's law of effect states that a connection between stimulus and the response is strengthened when the consequence is what? When the consequence is positive. Nagiging strong siya kung positive yung effect nito. 69. Sabi dyan, Watson applied classical conditioning in his experiments, and the results showed that behavior is learned through stimulus-response associations. Specifically, the development of emotional response to certain stimuli. This helps us in what? Sabi dyan kay Watson, classical conditioning. Behavior is learned through stimulus-response associations. Therefore, siya? It helps us in, It helps us in connecting observable behavior to stimulus. That's the answer. Nakuha? Kasi nga, stimulus-response association. So, therefore, we are into the connection of the behavior and the stimulus. 70. Si Skinner. Anong theory kay Skinner? Pagkikita mo pa lang kay Skinner, malalaman mo na siya agad eh. Ano siya? It's operant conditioning. Very good. Operant conditioning siya. 71. Pumapasok na si Bandura. The leading proponent of social learning theory is Bandura. Ano naman ngayon? Kung siya ang leading proponent ng social learning, behaviorism ba siya? Reinforcements ba siya? Or is it people learn from one another by modeling? It's letter D. People learn from one another by modeling. How about 72? Should a teacher involve his or her students in planning the instructional objectives before starting a lesson? Should a teacher do that? The answer is, gaya ng sabi ko nga pala, sagutin mo muna yung is it yes or ano, tapos hanapin mo yung rason. So, for that question, of course, it is good to involve your students. So, the answer will be yes. We will be left with A or C. So, mas matimbang na kasagutan yung A. Yes, with share objectives, they become self-motivated. Kasi alam na nila kung ano yung direction ng inyong lesson. So, makikipag-participate na sila kaya hindi mo sabihin. 73. The teacher aims to develop critical and creative thinking among her students. She should try using what? Critical tsaka creative thinking yung gusto nating i-develop sa ating mga learners. Therefore, if that's the case, ano yung mga questions na dapat nating tanungin? Look, may dalawa dyan na magka-opposite na nilagay. So, meaning, isa lang dyan siguro yung sagot. And kung titignan natin, convergent, close-ended siya or open-ended? Objective siya or subjective? How about divergent? So, which stimulates critical thinking and creative thinking? It's letter C or your divergent questions. 74. Lesson objectives must be aligned with the aims of education are embodied in the Philippine Constitution and should be stated in the course syllabus. What is the reason for this? Why should we include it in the course syllabus? It's because we would like to instill the ideals and goals of the country. That is the reason why they involve that even in your course syllabus. Now, for number 75. Instructional objectives in the affective domain includes receiving, responding, valuing, and the highest level is what? Diba sa ating affective domain, res, voc, yung ating acronym, receiving, responding, valuing, and organizing, and the highest level is C. At isa lang ang C dyan, that is conceptualization of a value system. Ayan, tandaan niya na. O, 76. One of the principles of learning states that learning is emotional as well as intellectual. So, ang learning daw, hindi lang siya intellectual, kundi emotional din. Ngayon, anong ibig sabihin yan? Internalization of ideas ba? O, nasan yung emotional doon, di ba? Look at B. Nasan yung emotional dyan? Wala. Look at D. Nasan yung emotional dyan? Wala rin, di ba? Look at C. Learning is maximized if feelings and thoughts are in harmony. Meron bang emotional dyan? Feelings. Meron bang intellectual dyan? Thoughts. So, the answer is letter C. O, 77. Miss Garcia observed that one of her students excel in activities requiring strength, speed, flexibility, balance, hand-eye coordination. O, yan. So, kung mapapansin natin, puro siya mga actions na nangangailangan ng katawan. So, therefore, anong intelligence ang meron sa kanya according kay Howard Gardner? It's bodily kinesthetic. Huwag palampasin ng mga ganyang katanungan. How about 78? This is another bonus question. O, sabi dyan, a student learns best through verbal lectures, discussions, talking, listening. Therefore, this student is visual learner ba siya? Hindi. Analytic ba siya? Hindi rin. Global ba siya? Hindi rin. Auditory learner ba siya? Exactly. So, the answer here is letter B. O, 79. Identify the 9 intelligence, yung pinakahuling naidagdag. Tapos, ang katanungan ng isang tao na nandito sa intelligence na to is, ano ba yung purpose ko sa mundong ito? Why are we here? O, questions about existence. Di bonus question na siya. It's your existentialism. 80. Sabi sa 80, children with sub-average intelligence and deficits in adaptive behavior experience difficulty in managing daily activities and in conducting themselves appropriately in social situations. Anong disability yung meron sila kapag ganyan? Merong deficit sa kanilang adaptive behavior. Tapos nahihirapan silang i-control yung mga pang-araw-araw na ginagawa nila. O may attention disorder ba siya? Wala. Emotional disorder? Wala. Health impairment? Wala din. It's more of your mental retardation. O, 81. Difficulty in focusing and maintaining attention coupled with the recurrent hyperactive and impulsive. O, dito naman, yung bata, very hyperactive. Very impulsive behavior yung meron siya. O, so anong kaso? Hyperactive, impulsive, hindi makapokus, hindi niya matagalan yung pakikinig, parang ganyan. Meron ba siyang dyslexia? Meron ba siyang autism? Meron ba siyang sensory impairment? O di kaya meron siyang ADHD? Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. The answer there is letter D. Sabi nga doon, hyperactive, difficulty focusing. So, syempre, meron na siyang ADHD. For 82, we have here, major contributor of the development of the behavior is Chori. Dahil wala dyan si Watson, sinong isasagot natin? It's Pavlov. Behaviorist si Pavlov. Sino pa yung may ibang nating behaviorist? Sino? Si Thorndike, tsaka si Skinner. Next. 83. It is an approach, sorry, that makes students think about their thinking. Ayan na naman, bonus question. Basta pag thinking about thinking, learning about learning, Mga ganong bagay, or thinking beyond, that is your metacognition. So, therefore, the answer here is an example of an approach of metacognitive. Tandaan na. 84. I like to show close representation of the size and shape of the earth. O, representation. Yung gusto ko makita nila kung nasaan yung earth, ano yung shape ng earth. Therefore, ano yung pwede kong gamitin? Picture ba? Pag picture, okay ba? Okay din, pero tingnan natin kung may mas maganda. Models, pwede ba? O, pwede. Realia, pwede ba? Dalhin mo yung solar system sa iyong kwarto. So, hindi siya pwede. Films. Films, ay maganda rin. Ayan. Pero, mas okay kung ang gagamitin natin ay model. Kasi ang i-emphasize lang naman natin is the shape of the earth and its location. Ganyan. At saka yung mga planets. O, 85. The best way to assess learning is to use real-life situations, objects, and materials in the environment. Hence, we are talking about what? Life situations. Real-life setting. Therefore, we are under your authentic assessment. 86. An appropriate assessment tool for assessing the development of learning in the affective domain is through what? Affective domain. Assessing the development of learning in the affective domain. For the affective domain, we usually use your journal entries. So, the answer for 86 is reading of journal entries. 87 naman tayo. Kung kanina, right hemisphere of the brain, we will be on the left brain na ngayon. A left brain dominant individual is portrayed as one who is analytic, linear, and responds to logic. A right brain person is viewed as ano? A right brain person is viewed as global, holistic, and responds to emotions. For 87 is more of letter C. 88 na tayo. How can a teacher help students with different learning and thinking styles continue to learn more effectively? Ano siya ha? Different learning and thinking styles. Ano siya? Paano makakatulong si teacher? Of course, by using a variety of reflection strategies. Variety. 89. Students possessing intrapersonal intelligence, according to Gardner, learn through dominant involvement of, ano siya? Intra, meaning hindi siya sa interaction. So, hindi na siya letter A. At hindi na rin siya letter D. Sabi dyan, intrapersonal. It's more of B. Feelings, attitudes, and values of that individual. So, sa intrapersonal, sila yung ating mga matalino naman. Pero, they function well kapag ganong individual activities, tsaka they are more of introspection, reflections, journals, gano'n sila. 90. Ausubel recommends the use of visuals to bridge the gap between what the learners already know and what they need to know. Which is an example. Bridge gap, what they know and what they need to know. It's more of your comparison pattern. Kasi nga, may dalawang dyan aspect na ipagko-connect your what they know and what they already know. 91. Best way to present a lesson with expensive equipment and technical know-how. Ano naman yung gagamitin mo kapag kaganyan? We will be using your know-how. Sabi dun, di ba? Know-how. So, meaning there are skills or processes. The answer there is letter C. Demonstration. 92. The teacher requested an older, brighter, and more cooperative member in the group to teach the other members. Bakit kaya yan ginawa ni teacher? Merong isang mas matanda tsaka mas matalino na member ng klase. Ginamit niya yung batang yun para turuan yung iba pang mga bata. Ano yung rationale niya dyan? It's because the tutor is better equipped and close to the rest. So, since kilala naman siya ng mga klase niya, mas siguro, magiging malaking tulong siya sa teacher. So, it's letter A. 93. Cooperative learning approach makes use of classroom organization where students work in teams to help each other. What mode of grouping can facilitate the skill and values desired? Oh, work in team to help each other. Alin yung mas magandang grouping? Homogeneous or heterogeneous? Mas maganda si hetero. Kasi various learners yung may encounter mo sa isang grupo. So, basically, the answer for that is letter C. Mas may elicit mo yung kanilang helpfulness. O, 94. It is a teaching approach that views learning as an active process. O, sabi dito, wherein someone creates meaningful connection between prior knowledge to the present activity. O, di ba? Na-discuss na natin to. It's all about your constructivism. Kapag constructivism kasi, you construct meaning out of the data presented and out of what you already know. Yun lang yung tatandaan sa constructivism. Inquiry naman, questioning, metacognitive, thinking beyond, learning about learning, thinking about thinking, problem solving. Alam na, solving of problems. O, 95. A teacher earns the title of professional if she is a judge, knowledgeable, proficient in a variety of teaching methodologies, and exhibits a high degree of a third component of competence, which is, para matawag na professional ang isang guro, dapat knowledgeable siya. Dapat madami siyang alam na teaching methodologies. What else? Sapat ba na may mastery siya ng content? Hindi. And meron na tayong knowledgeable doon High degree of dexterity. Fairness and objectivity. Ang pinakasagot dyan, ethical and moral standards. That would make you more professional kung kino-consider mo ang ating ethical and moral standards. O, 96. It is a quality that is emitted like a spark, dab as energizer. It is evident in a teacher's eagerness and excitement in convincing children to get involved in the learning activity. It is very contagious. Anong quality ni teacher ito? Na parang nakakonvince or na-encourage mo yung mga students kapag ginamit mo siya. It's more of your enthusiasm. So, kahit ayaw nila, kahit paulit-ulit silang nagduno, hindi nag-give up si teacher. Therefore, the teacher is very enthusiastic. 97. Teachers with integrity are perceived to possess inimitable probity, honesty in thoughts, and stature. Integrity can and should be mirrored. Is it sound and easy? Easy ba siya? Ulitin yung basahin Teachers with integrity are perceived to possess inimitable probity, honesty in thoughts, and stature, indisputable fairness in making decisions. Therefore, a teacher should be dapat daw may integridad si teacher. Does it sound easy? Our answer here could be, our answer here is more of yes. And there are reasons presented here why. Let's take a look at C. Yes, if trust from parents is lacking. May spark ba kapag ganun? Siyempre, medyo madidisappoint si teacher. So, letter C is not the answer. How about A? Yes, it is very easy if the teacher is virtuous and principled. Tama, hindi. When we say virtuous and principled, sobra-sobra siyang into teaching. So, palaging na-exercise niya yung maganyan. The answer is letter A. Nakuha? 98. A school head envisions developing proficiency among her teachers in employing effective and new teaching methodologies. So, ang concern ni principal or school head is the proficiency of the teachers. Gusto niya may mga new methodologies din ng mga teachers niya. What is one way of achieving it? Is it through merely attending annual conventions? No. Is it through improvising instructional tools? No. Is it conducting inter-school visits for exchange of best practices and observing class demonstrations? Maaari. Or is it undertake research in own specialization? Ano namang connect nun, di ba, sa teaching methodologies? Basically, the answer here is letter C. Ayan. So, from time to time, may mga schools tayo na parang gumagawa ng, tawag mo doon, benchmarking nag-visit sila ng other schools to check the best practices of each school. Yan. Sharing. Next, 99. Sabi dyan, hence, a teacher is strongly motivated to continue growth and as an individual and a professional. Personal growth can be achieved through one's own what? Personal tsaka professional growth kasi yung tinutukoy ng ating lifelong process. For interviewing model teachers, personal ba siya, Prof? It's more of professional. How about joining interest club? Professional. How about attending training sessions? It's more of professional. So, we go to personal growth. It's infusing values, attitudes, and desirable work ethics. The answer for 99 is more of letter A. Letter A is the answer. 100. According to Piaget's stages of cognitive development, ages 12 to 15 daw, ay nasa formal operational stage na. Ano na yung kayang gawin ng mga bata sa age na yan? Yung letter A, ano siya? Hindi. Pre-operational. How about B? Kaya ba yung gawin ng 12 to 15? How about C? Kaya ba niya yung gawin? How about D? So, the answer here is letter B. Can solve abstract problems and think deductively. It's more of B. 12 to 15. Alright, so we are on number 101 already. So, it says here, lessons depicting historical events like Declaration of Independence, execution of Rizal, could be taught through what methodology? Alin dyan yung pinaka-effective for historical events? Is it discussion? Or medyo boring pag discussion? Is it team teaching? Role-playing? Pwede ba siyang i-roleplay? Narratives? Alright, so, the answer here is role-playing. Diba? Kasi mas may involve yung ating mga learners. Hindi mababago yung perception nila that history is boring because they are being involved. So for number 101, the answer there is letter C or your role playing. Number 102, in implementing an inquiry approach, the most effective component to facilitate the smooth probe of the concept to be learned is what? Inquiry approach. When we say inquiry approach, ano yung word na kakaibat niyang inquiry na yan? It's questioning. So basically, our answer for 102 is appropriate questioning techniques. Ayan. Next. For 103, field trip is an effective way of teaching where organisms could be observed in their natural habitat, active and responding to stimuli in the environment. What values are developed among the students during and after field trip? Ang binigay ng example is sa natural habitat. So perhaps, sa field trip na yan, dinala niya sa mga mountains, rivers, something like that. So, ano yung ma-develop pa ng mga bata kapag nag-field trip tayo? It's your love of nature, proper behavior during exploration. So, the answer there is letter B. Love of nature and proper behavior. 104. Sabi dito, journals written by students at the completion of a day's lesson will reveal which information that can serve as a guide in planning the next lesson. Sa journal ba, sinusulat ba ng mga estudyante yung mga naintindihan nila at saka hindi nila naintindihan? Yes. Sinusulat ba nila yung mga pinaka-nagustuhan nilang topics? Yes. Sinusulat ba nila yung mga topic na nahirapan sila? Yes. Emotional state throughout ba? Nadidiscuss ba yan sa journals? No. It's more of letter A. So, yung 1, 2, and 3, they could be of help in planning for the next lesson. Kasi nakita mo yung ano na yung naintindihan na nila at ano yung mga hindi pa nila naiintindihan. Nakuha? So, for 105, when students recognize a situation as something similar in a way to what was experienced before, The tendency is to use the knowledge. O, ayan, pumapasok na naman si ating constructivism, tama? Kasi sabi dyan, na yung situation na yan, parang na-experience na ng mga learners noon. So, ang tendency, mas madali na nilang matututunan yan. Kasi i-apply na lang nila sa new situation or i-relate nila. Therefore, anong type of learning yung nangyari? Nakarelate sila, therefore, there is a meaningful learning. The answer is letter D. 106. How can a teacher enhance his or her questioning technique for an effective teacher-student interaction? Kailangan daw ng student-teacher interaction. Kailangan ba i-extend yung wait time? Kailangan bang tumawag ka ng isang estudyante in case na hindi masagot ng isa? Agad-agad. O hindi rin. You may answer your own question. Nagtanong ka, ikaw din ang sasagot. Ganun ba siya? Or is it allow sufficient think time? Meaning, you allow some allowance na mag-isip yung bata, yung mga bata, ng iyong itatanong. So, that is more of letter A. And sabi din, mas okay kung ibabato mo muna yung tanong bago ka magtawag ng pangalan na sasagot kaysa sa nagbato ka na ng pangalan ng sasagot tas yung tanong. Kasi kung ibabato mo muna yung question, meaning mag-iisip lahat ng bata sa class. Ayan. So, give them time to think also. 107. You are to teach the difference between the parts of a complete and an incomplete flower. Ngayon, lahat halos ng mga bata, ang dinala nila ay complete flower. Ano yung gagawin mo? Kailangan makakita nila yung difference ng complete sa incomplete na flower. You may draw the parts of incomplete flower kung walang nadalang incomplete flower. So, the answer for 107 is letter B. 108. Choose the important purpose of assessment. Ang assessment ba for diagnosing? Ang assessment ba for placement? Ang assessment ba for effectiveness of a program? Or ang assessment ba part of a lesson? The answer there is 1, 2, and 3. And what letter is that? It's letter A. Those sum up the purpose of assessment. How about 109? Sa pre-operational stage ni Piaget, sabi, yung bata raw, ang nakikita lang niya or nako-consider niya is yung point of view niya. Ngayon, anong tawag mo sa characteristic na ito? It's, the child is very self-centered. Therefore, the child is very egocentric. So, therefore, the answer here is letter C, or your egocentrism. 110. Who is the foremost believer that intelligence is a function of the number of successful SR connection? Pakakita pa lang natin ng SR, kanino na yan? Ano ba yung meaning ng S tsaka R dyan? Stimulus and response. So, kanino yan? Kay Watson ba? Vygotsky? Kohlberg? So, that is belonging to Thorndike. The answer there is letter A. Next, an education for globalization should nurture the higher order cognitive skill and interpersonal skills in order to develop what? Dapat daw in-nurture yung ating higher order cognitive skills and yung ating interpersonal skills. Therefore, we are developing what? Globalization, ha? We are developing openness to a diverse heritage and culture. Because we are looking for higher order cognitive skills and interpersonal skills. So, we are into openness. Next. Ito. How will you interpret a student's 80% percentile score? 80% yung percentile score ng bata. Ano yung interpretation niyan? Para dyan, percentiles, ang tatandaan lang is percentage of the students in the norm group surpassed at each raw score in the distribution. So, ibig sabihin, kapag 80% siya, yung bata, higher than 80% of the members of the group. Ang tatandaan lang kapag percentile rank, mga ganyang bagay is Kung halimbawa ano yung nabigay na percentage, 30%, meaning, na-surpass ng bata yung 30% of the group. Ganyan lang yung tatandaan mo dyan para hindi malito. So, the answer for 112 is letter A. Next, in planning a lesson, after establishing your objectives in the cognitive domain, the next thing you do is what? You have already established your objectives. What then are you going to do? Magkakandak ka na ba ng pre-test? Tapos, post-test? Or magkakandak ka lang muna ng pre-test? Or get ready with all the materials you will be needing? Or are you going to find out what teaching methodology will be used? So, it's more of letter B. Find out what the students already know by giving a pre-test. In that case, makikita mo kung alin yung dapat mong bigyan ng pansin talaga mula sa mga naset mo na objectives. So, for 113, it's more of letter B. Oh, how about the next one? A teacher may test given at the end of the lesson to find out if the objective has been attained can be classified as what? O, na-meet daw ba ng results yung ating objective? That is under your criterion reference. Kasi may chine-check tayo na competencies. And that is your criterion reference. O, 115, a teacher set 95% accuracy in a test on predicting the kind of weather given 5 different atmospheric conditions. O, itong a student who obtains a score of 85% can be interpreted as what? O, dito, huwag ka mo masyadong mag-focus sa unang sentence. Kasi ang tanong lang naman, a student who obtains a score of 85% can be interpreted as, ano? She is higher than 85% of the group. There goes your percentile rank again. Ayan siya, B. O, next. What type of test is being administered by the PRC aimed at measuring the proficiency of teachers in developing a set of instructional skills or methodologies? The examination is given twice a year, nationwide. Ano siya? The test is set of instructional skills kasi yan. Tapos, by the PRC. Proficiency, yung mini-measure natin. Therefore, ano siya? It's your, again, criterion reference type of test. Nakuha? Next. Avoid negative statements in the stem of a multiple choice stem, such as, it is not true that Rizal died on December 30. Why? Bakit daw kailangan nating i-avoid yung mga negative statements kung ang pag-aanuhan lang naman natin is multiple choice? We should what? We should avoid that because it is very confusing, di ba? Pwede mo namang idirekta na lang na sabihin na Rizal died on December 30. O, ganyan siya. Hindi na yung lalagyan mo pa ng not true. Bakit pa not true? Untrue. Meron namang term na untrue, ganun siya. Or false, or what. So, the answer there is, it is very confusing kasi. Nakuha? O, 118. A major advantage of an essay type of test. O, what is the advantage of an essay type of test? When we say essay, ano siya? Subjective or objective? O, it's very subjective. Therefore, for your essay type of test kasi, mas madami kang makukuhang information patungkol sa mga learners. Kasi nga, kapag essay type, relative yan sa kung ano yung natutunan nila at information na kaya nilang i-provide. Number 119, what are the characteristics of a standardized test? Standardized test. So, meaning pag standardized test, formal ba siya or hindi? Pwede ba siyang i-conduct nationwide or hindi? Ayan. So, the answer here is, it has a high reliability index. Kaya nga standardized eh. Kasi formally set siya. So, it has a high reliability index. Next, meron tayong isang college administrator at gusto niya mag-conduct ng entrance exam para ma-identify yung future outcome ng ating mga graduates. Kung sino yung gagraduate at sino yung mga mag-drop out. So, ang test na ito is ano? Anong type of validity ang ating mine-measure? Di ba? Meron daw siyang entrance exam para makita yung future outcomes. Therefore, when we say we are trying to check on those, we are into predicting. So basically, what validity is being measured? It's your predictive validity. Diba? Kasi nga pinapredict niya kung ano yung maaaring maging outcome ng mga students sa pamamagitan ng isang test. Hindi siya pwedeng norm-related kapag norm-related kasi is comparing the score of a student to another or to the group. Kapag construct validity naman, yung mismong pagkaka-construct ng questions ba related sa objectives or hindi. Ganun siya. Kapag, ayun yung ating construct validity. O, next, 1 to 1. Which are attributes of a good evaluation? Ang good evaluation ba dapat valid? Ang good evaluation ba dapat reliable? O, ang good evaluation ba dapat sensitive? Ang good evaluation ba dapat objective? The answer there is all yes. So therefore, 1, 2, 3, and 4 are attributes of a good evaluation instrument. O next, one of the characteristics of a good test is content validity. What is the first thing to be done before test construction? Validity. Ano na nga ba yung ibig sabihin ng validity? A test is measuring what it is supposed to measure. Therefore, kapag ang gusto natin ay ang content validity, ano yung ating i-check? First thing na i-consider natin, it's letter D. Examine the objectives set for the test to find out if they are consistent with the subject matter. So, it's letter D. Kasi yung objectives, kailangan mag-reflect that it is valid in content. O, next, how can a teacher establish the reliability of a test? Reliability tayo, ha? Ano na nga ulit yung reliability? When a test is very reliable, meaning there is consistency in test scores. So, with that, is it reliable? Are we testing the reliability if we are repeating the same test? Yes. Are we testing the reliability if we are administering a parallel test? Yes. How about if we are splitting the test? How about if we vary the number of items? Yung number 4, hindi na siya testing the reliability of a test. Kasi binary mo na yung number of items. Paano mo pa makikita yung consistency with test scores? Diba? Also, the answer there for 123 is letter A. Nakuha ba? O, 1, 2, 4. Which is the most reliable and easily used attitudinal instrument for measuring the most positive and favorable, the most negative and favorable views about. Ayan, ito kasi, dinescribe na niya mismo yung hinahanap nating sagot. Dito sa scale na to, kailangan ng positive tsaka negative. So, basically, what will be our answer? This is, the STEM describes Likert scale. So, the answer will be Likert scale. Ang tatandaan for Likert scale is yan. Most negative, positive, favorable, and unfavorable. O, 125 na tayo. And which policy is RA 4670 known as the Magna Carta for Public School Teachers Focus? Sa alin nakafocus ang ating Magna Carta? Is it about the right to establish or join organizations? Code of ethics ba yan? Or recruitment siya? Recruitment after training daw. It's more of letter D, to promote and improve the social and economic status of public school teachers. So, for your RA 4670, dun natin makikita yung mga paano ba nag-i-increase yung salary ng teachers, mga ganong bagay. So, improve the social and economic status of public school teachers. That is your Magna Carta for public school teachers. Next, in order to arrive at skills-based evaluation, what could ensure an objective higher order assessment? Skills-based evaluation tayo. Tapos, dapat objective and in the sense na higher order assessment siya. Therefore, kapag skills-based evaluation tayo, ano yung madalas nating gamitin in assessing that? Skill. Yes, we are using your scoring rubric. Pag performance naman yung nandyan, rubric pa din. Pwede rin maging rubric, pwede rin gumamit ng rubric kapag demonstrations, outputs, ganyan. Projects, 1 to 7. It says here, who authored the three-tiered model of learning enactive, iconic? Yan. Pagkabasa mo pa lang ng enactive, iconic, symbolic, may pumapasok ng tao sa utak mo. And who is that? It's all about Jerome Bruner. Sabi ni Bruner, kailangan daw sa enactive phase muna, tapos iconic and symbolic. Para rin siyang kay Piaget na merong levels in developing your cognitive aspect. So, enactive daw muna, tapos iconic and symbolic. Next. The use of a planetarium to show the arrangement of the planets together with their rotation and revolution around the sun is an example of what? Na-encounter na natin to kanina sa ating previous questions, tama? Alright, so we will be using again your models. 129. Sabi, gusto nating ipakita yung pagtaas ng temperature mula January to March. Ngayon, kung estudyante ang gagawa niyan, ano yung maaari niyang gawin? Is it a flowchart? Pagtaas ng temperature. Hindi na siya flowchart kasi for your flowchart, it's all about your processes. Kapag map naman, pwede ba siya map? Yung temperature reading lang naman. O hindi. For map, it's about the location of certain places. How about drawing? Ito-drawing mo ba yung temperature? O hindi. So, it's more of a bar graph. And kapag bar graph, di ba, meron siyang bars malamang. May taas, baba, ganyan. So, makikita mo yung pagtaas ng or pag-iba-iba ng temperature. So, the answer there is bar graph. Next. In a project-based multimedia learning, the students learn new knowledge and basic skills. Aside from being actively engaged in the learning task, they got involved in what? Kapag project-based tayo, tatandaan nyo na meron niyang planning, meron niyang designing, and of course, producing a multimedia product for presentation. That is your project-based multimedia learning strategy. And that is being reflected in letter D. So, the answer is D. 131. Sabi dito, gusto ni Mayor na maipakita yung relationship ng iba-ibang offices doon sa municipal hall. At saka yung mga functions nila. Therefore, ano yung maaari nating gamitin dyan if we are pertaining to the relationships of the different offices? Are we gonna use your line graph? No. Are we gonna use a time chart? Big no. Are we gonna use stream flow? Of course not. So, we are going to use your organizational chart. Ayan. B. Which philosophy proclaims the spiritual nature of man and stresses the human spirit? Yan. Pakikita nyo pa lang, yung mga clue words kasi natin for this ism is spiritual, soul, mind, true, good, beautiful. All of those things, they are pertaining to your what? Idealism. And that is, who is the number one philosopher in idealism? It's who? Plato. So, for that, yung mga keywords natin for idealism, spiritual, mind, spirit, soul, ganyan siya pag idealism. Lahat ng bagay na iniisip natin, that falls under your idealism. So, kapag idealism, inisip ko siya, kahit wala siya talaga, therefore, totoo siya. Kasi nga nasa isip ko siya. Halimbawa, for the idealist, para sa kanya, totoo si Superman kasi nasa isip niya si Superman. Pero for the realist, mali sa idealism. Meaning, kay realism, nagiging real lang isang bagay kung may evidences ka na nag-exist talaga siya. Ayan. So, for essentialism naman, alam na, back to basics, perennialism, my forever, universal truths, absolute truths, yan siya. Next. Which story states that significant skills, knowledge, and attitudes in making one's adjustment? Subject matter ang binavalue ng ism na to. Significant skills pa. Habituation pa. Discipline, hindi siya freedom. Ano siya? Therefore, this ism is under your essentialism. Kasi nga subject matter, significant skills, disciplines. Therefore, we are talking about essentialism. Yung iba na ulit-ulit na ulit. 1, 3, 4, it says here. Yung quoted line. All learning should center on the child's interests and needs. Dapat learner-centered daw. The school should be a pleasant place for learning. Its emphasis is on the child as the learner and not on the subject matter. Tanda na? So therefore, this is not a philosophy of the perennialist. This is not, is this a philosophy of the pragmatist? O sabi dyan, interest and needs. So it's more of your progressivism. Kasi sabi dyan, not on subject matter yung focus, dapat daw sa experience. Dapat daw sa mga activities. So, when we are in your progressivism, we are teaching the child to cope with change. Kaya nga sabi dyan, the focus should be on the child, interests and needs. Therefore, we are in the philosophy of progressivism. Next, it says here, he is known for his philosophy of pragmatism and the Darwin's story. Sabi niya, children are socially active humans. And they also want to explore the environment. Tapos, siya din yung nag-propose ng democratic education. Therefore, sino siya? Democratic education. Going back to the historical foundation of the curriculum, makikita natin na si John Dewey ang nag-propose ng ating democratic education that led us to the creation of your public schools. Therefore, kapag nakita na yan, na pragmatism siya, tapos sabi niya, ang mga bata, socially active humans, tapos democratic education, automatically na si John Dewey. Nakuha. 136. Assessment tayo. Kung mapapansin natin sa assessment, halos pare-parehas lang yung mga situations na pinipresenta. Minsan nag-iiba lang siya sa number. Sabi dito, a negative discrimination index means what? Ano siya? Negative discrimination index. Ganito siya, ang natandaan lang sa ating discrimination index. Kapag, zero discrimination, equal yung nakakuha ng item na yan sa lower group tsaka upper group. So, LG equals UG, zero discrimination. But if we have this case, LG is greater than UG, that is negative discrimination. Kasi mas madami na yung nakakuha sa lower group kesa sa upper group. That is negative. Kapag lower group ang mas madami ang nakakuha, negative. Negative. Kapag naman upper group is greater than the lower group or UG is greater than LG, mas madami ang nakakuha sa upper group ng tamang sagot kesa sa lower group, that is positive. Basta kapag mas madaming nakakuha sa upper group ng tamang sagot kesa sa mga lower group, that is positive discrimination index. Therefore, sa 136, what will be our answer? Letter A. More from the lower group answers the test items correctly. Ayan. Next, 137, it says here, which groups of scores is most varied? When we say varied, ano siya? Masyadong, iba-iba. So, the higher the SD, the more varied the test scores are. So, we have here, alin dyan ba yung pinakamataas ang SD? Matik na yun ang sagot. So, it's letter A or yung 0.90 standard deviation. For SD kasi, it's on, standard deviation is for measuring the variability of test scores. So, for 137, it's A. Kapag nag-1 yan, edi mas varied pa yan, yung test scores nila. O, 138. There goes again your percentile rank. And what's the answer? 72 daw. Therefore, the student's score is higher than 72% of all the students who took the test. O, 139. Mean. Ano nga ulit yung gagawin kapag mean? Average. So, i-add mo lahat yan. Anong sagot nyo? 30 plus 31, 25, 28, 29. O, anong sagot? Pag in-add mo lahat, ilan yung mga pinag-add mo? I-divide mo siya doon sa result. Your answer will be, you will get a mean of 29.55. Ganun lang siya sa mean. Next, what is the median of the following scores? 45, 42. O, ilista mo siya. Mula pinakamababa hanggang mataas. Ilista nga. O, ngayong nakalista na siya, bilangin mo kung ilan siya. Did you get an odd number or an even number? May scores ba na parehas? Meron ba? Ayan. So, tignan yung pinakagitna. Ano yung score na nasa pinakagitna? That will be your answer kapag add. Pero kapag nakita mo na parehas naman na sila nung next, yun na din yung sagot. Ngayon naman, kapag even siya, halimbawa, yung given na number ay 2. Ano yung median nun? Pag-addin mo, tapos i-divide mo into 2. Ganon siya. Or kapag halimbawa 4, pag-addin mo yung third and fourth number and divide it into 2, that will be your median. So for 140, our answer will be median. Oh, next, 141. If the computed range is low, this means what? Yung range daw nila is mababa. Ibig sabihin, ano siya? Masyado bang malaki yung agwat nila kapag low yung range? Kapag low yung range, yung difference between the highest and the lowest score is also low. No? So, meaning, kapag yung range natin is low, dikit lang yung scores. Kapag high na yung range niya, masyado na siyang malaki yung agwat ng mga test scores. So, for 141, what then would be our answers if we found out that the range is low? Very good. The difference between the highest and the lowest score is low. O, difficulty index naman tayo. Iba kanina yung discrimination index sa difficulty index. The difficulty index of a test item is 1. This means that the test is what? Yung difficulty index daw niya 1. Ayan, ang tatandaan naman for your difficulty index, the higher, the easier, or the more difficult it is. O, kapag 1 yung difficulty index niya, ibig sabihin, masyadong madali yung test. So, or yung item. So, for 142, the answer would be letter C. O, next, 143. O, tignan natin. Sabi dyan, ang difficulty index niya ay 0.51. Ang discriminating index niya ay 0.25. Ano ngayon dapat ang gawin ni teacher? Ang pinaka-middle ground or parang pwede mong i-retain na items is kapag ang difficulty index niya ay nasa 50. At ang discriminating index niya ay positive. Pero positive in the sense na yun nga, yung half of those who got the items correctly are belonging to the upper group. Kapag ganun ang nangyari between your difficulty index and your discriminating index, you could retain that item. Pero dito, sakto lang yung difficulty index. Kaso, nagka-problema siya sa discriminating index. Ngayon, hindi nagkatugma. So, dapat nating i-revise yung item. Dapat balance silang dalawa, 0.51, 0.50, ganun silang dalawa. So, that is your letter C, revise the item. 144. How many percent of the cases fall between 1 and negative 1 and positive 1 SD units from the mean? How many percent of the cases fall? Nasa 68% siya. No? Units from the mean. Around 68%. Yan lang yung talandaan kapag how many cases fall between negative 1 tsaka positive 1 SD units. It's 68%. O, 145. Sabi dito, visualizing the cone which represents the theory. Doon daw kay Edgar Dale's cone of experience, ano yung nasa pinakababa at ano naman yung nasa pinakamataas? No. So, hanap tayo. Ano yung nasa pinakababa niya? Ano? It's more of your direct, purposeful experience. So, tignan. Dapat ang kapartner niya yung mataas din. Pinakamataas, I mean. It's verbal symbol. So, the answer there is letter A. Tignan mo lang kung alin yung nasa may pinakamababa tsaka sa pinakamataas. Yung the rest na, medyo ano sila eh, hindi sila sa top tsaka sa bottom. Halos magkakalapit na lang din yung mga yan. O, 146. Which is one very important characteristics of a constructivist teacher? Constructivist si teacher. Kanina yung ano lang, yung estudyante yung focus natin. Ngayon naman si teacher. Pag ba si teacher constructivist, nagiging facilitator siya. Kapag ba si teacher constructivist, direct teaching approach ba siya? Kapag si teacher ba constructivist, presents her own view for the students to start theirs. Meaning, binibigyan ba niya ng idea yung mga bata para mabigyan niya rin ng daan or clue yung mga bata? Makapag-start yung mga bata from her ideas? Or is she emphasizing that knowledge exists in social context? It's more of letter C. Ayan. Constructivist eh. Para at least makabuo ng meaning yung mga bata mula dun sa present ni teacher. Gaya nga nang sabi natin kanina, it's about constructing meaning out of your experience or out of the presented information. So, project na naman itong isa. Constructing a project at the end of a unit is used as an assessment strategy. Which is the advantage? Constructing a project. Is it showing innovation? It could be. Pero sa assessment strategy tayo eh. So, parents will be able to do it for their children. It develops a student's manipulative skill. Oh, pwede. How about D? Student present a principle learned in a concrete form. Oh, of all of them, alin yung pinaka nag-a-address sa assessment strategy by using projects? It's more of letter D. Student present a principle learned in concrete form. Oh, how about 148? In a lesson on kinds of leaves, which is the best teaching strategy and why? O, yan na. Ang lesson mo is kinds of leaves. Therefore, magpapakandak ka ba ng research? Magpapakandak ka ba ng construction of a project? Ano, gagawa sila ng leaves? How about C, special report? Kailangan daw sa report, masabi nila yung mga rare or hindi masyadong nakikitang kinds of leaves. Or is it just prepare a collection of leaves and develop the skill in classifying and organizing the materials learned? O, kinds of leaves lang tayo. Siyempre, huwag ka na magpa-research, huwag ka na magpa-construct, diba? At saka magdig pa na yung hahanap pa sila ng mga hindi masyadong nakikitang leaves. Just go with letter D, preparing a collection of leaves and letting them organize and classify those. O, next. Which one describes journal writing as a teaching technique? Journal writing. Kapag journal, anong ginagawa? It's much like writing your diary. It's like a diary of what transpires during a learning episode. So, your answer will be letter tama, B. 150. Sabi dyan, ano sabi dyan? Research shows that females are more likely than males to have higher need for affiliation and that more boys than girls. Oh, so, basta ang topic dyan is about boys and girls. Males and females. Therefore, anong factor ang ina-account nito? It is accounting for, the aspect on Sa gender yan. Obvious naman, di ba? Male, female, boys, girls. So, that is on gender. Wala naman siyang minention na about age, or culture, or socioeconomic status. O, next. How can a teacher avoid breakdowns and interruptions in daily class procedures? O, di ba? Madalas nating madalas tayong makakita, or may chance na makakita tayo ng mga bata na nag-start na yung klase pero labas ng labas sa kanilang classroom, magtatasa, mag-CCR, ganito, ganyan. Ano yung mga dapat gawin ni teacher para medyo ma-avoidan yung mga ganong interruptions during class? Assign a leader to assist everyone. Everyone, kaya bang i-assist siya ng iisa? Punish the misbehaving student. Paano kung madami sila? Eh di puro pagpapunish na lang ang gagawin sa klase. Allow the students to make their own regulations. O paano kung grupo-grupo sila, kada grupo merong regulations? E di mas magiging jungle bites yung ating klase. Look at letter B, establish routine for daily task. Ano yung advantage ng routine? Kapag kasi routine, na-establish mo yung mga bata, yung routine mo everyday, medyo ma-avoid natin yung interruptions. Bakit? Kasi alam nila na ganito lang yung oras na pwede silang mag-recess, na pwede silang magtasa ng lapis. At sa kapag ganito na yung nangyayari, alam na nila kung ano yung susunod. Ganon siya, no? So, for 151, it's more of establishing your routines. Kaya nga doong sa topic natin I guess is on principle and methods of teaching for the classroom management. Kailangan ay merong routine sa classroom. Ayan siya. Para maging, yung manageable din yung klase. O, next. Cite some teachers' personal attributes that could prevent common classroom discipline problems. O, for addressing discipline problems, ano yung dapat na meron si teacher? Para hindi na rin masyadong lumaki pa yung problema dyan. The teacher should be, since it's all about discipline problems, the teacher should be patient and compassionate. Ayan. Yan yung sagot, B. Next. Which is an advantage and a disadvantage of using real objects in teaching? Hahanap tayo ng advantage at disadvantage. Sabi sa A, real objects are easily available. Is that true? Hindi. Some real objects are potential hazards. Tama naman yan. So, both presented hindi kasi hindi feasible yung sinabi sa unang statement ng A. Therefore, hindi yan ang sagot. How about B? Real objects can be observed thoroughly. True. Some are expensive. True again. And that is advantage and disadvantage. So, for B, it is reflecting the STEM. How about C? Students are interested with real objects and may get destroyed easily. Students are interested with real objects. True. May get destroyed easily. It may be, but not always. So, C reflected that, but, mas matimbang si B. How about, can fit real objects to the lesson? Children forget to bring the right kind. Anong connect ng children forget to bring the right kind? So, we will be taking letter B. Siya talaga yung nagre-reflect doon sa STEM natin in number 153. Next, 154. Disabled students are now better addressed as, ayan, di ba medyo pangit kasi sa pandinig kapag nasabihin natin special child, disabled students. Now we have this better address for them. And that is with exceptionalities. Di ba, with exceptionalities. Kapag ikaw yung sinabihan niya, you will feel like a normal being, di ba? Next, 155. Who are the school-based stakeholders? Is a bonus question. School-based stakeholders. So basically, saan natin sila nakikita? Sa school. At sino sila? Very good. Your teachers and your students. 156. In evaluating a curriculum, which is the most valid criterion to observe? Valid criterion at ang ating ine-evaluate is your curriculum. So, alin dyan? Methods ba? No. Available resources ba? Hindi masyado. Activities ba? Pwede. Consistency with objectives. That is the major criterion to be observed when evaluating your curriculum. Consistency with objectives. And kung maaalala natin, lesson planning man yan, assessment of learning man yan, assessment of or evaluation of the curriculum man yan, we should go back to your G's and your O's or your goals and objectives. Your outcomes, performances, your outputs, they should reflect the objectives. The answer there is letter D. 157. How can a teacher develop the value of timeliness, such as punctuality and maximal utilization of time? Kung makapansin nyo, that is a bonus question already. Kasi ang tinatanong natin dyan, yung teacher nagpapakita ng timeliness, punctuality, maximal utilization of time. Therefore, is it B, rush if you are getting late? Hindi niya binavalue kasi nga alam naman na niya na nalilate na siya. Tapos tignan nyo, rush, sabi dyan. Negative na yan eh. Avoid disruptions due to improper behavior. Pwede, pero siya ba yung pinakamatimbang na sagot? How about A, consistently follow schedule for classroom routine? Ano yung maganda sa A? Sabi kasi dyan, consistently. So, meaning stick ka sa schedule mo. Pero, that's not a guarantee that that is the best answer. Let us take a look at letter D. Have a big clock installed in the classroom for everyone's guidance. Now, ano naman yung point kapag meron tayong big clock sa classroom, di ba? It's more of, alin ngayon ang pinakamatimbang dyan na sagot? It's more of letter A, or consistently follow schedule for classroom routines. Siyempre. Next, 158. How should the teacher treat inattention and disruptions while the class is going on? O, habang nagdi-discuss ka, halimbawa, bigla na lang merong mga bata na hindi nakikinig, nakikipag-usap sa katabi, ganyan. Para hindi ma-disrupt yung flow ng discussion mo, ano yung pwede mong gawin? Dapat ba bang nagdi-discuss ka? The skeletal system is like this. 1, get out. O, that is letter A. And letter A is, na-disrupt na yung flow of discussion. So, A is not the answer. How about, wait for a while until they are through. O, habang nagdi-discuss kang ganyan. O, so for the reproductive system, blah, blah, blah. O, bigla kang tumigil dyan. Tapos, hinintay mo muna silang matapos. Eh, what's the guarantee na matatapos sila agad? Yung mga hindi nag-a-attention sa'yo. Diba? Those who are not paying attention. What's the guarantee na matatapos sila agad? Malay mo, mas gusto pa nila. Millennial learners are quite different from the previous learners or our generations. Ayan, how about letter C? Put a stern look and gesture. Habang nagdi-discuss ka, halimbawa, nilalakayan mo na lang yung mata mo, tapos manggigigil ka, parang halimbawa, i-emphasize mo na lang yung dinidiscuss. Is that disrupting the flow of the discussion? Oh, it could be used. How about D? She should not wait long. Check clearly enough to avoid major problems. Oh, paano? Pupunta na siya sa upuan. Ito, ganyan. Oh, is it C or D? It's more of letter C because a teacher would want to avoid disruptions while the class is going on. Oh, next, 159, it says here, why must teachers be alert and consistent in classroom management? Bakit kailangan may consistency? Oh, pumupunta na naman tayo sa routine, sa schedule, di ba? Umiikot lang dyan yung mga katanungan. Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, kung related yung previous question sa kasalukuyang tanong, go back kasi maaari kang makakuha ng clue at mapagtibay mo pa yung sagot mo. O, pag ba consistent ka, may warning for potential misbehavior? Siyempre, wala. O, how about B, it promotes an orderly learning environment? Of course, it does. Kasi nga consistent ka eh. Tapos alert pa si teacher. So, syempre, pinopromote mo yung orderly learning environment. How about letter C? It is easy to see who is not listening or not. Pwede, pero parang mas mabigat pa din si B. Mas mabigat pa din si B. How about D? This gives time for other classroom tasks. It's more of B. Promotes learning environment. If we are consistent with our classroom management and we are very alert, therefore, hindi malabo na maging, orderly learning environment. Nakuha? Nakakasunod ba? Buhay pa ba? Ang susunod na top notcher? Hindi pa siya tulog? So, 160 na tayo. Why should the chairs tables, and other physical features be arranged for flexible seating. Bakit? Bakit kailangang i-arrange yung chairs, tables, tsaka iba pang mga kagamitan sa classroom natin? Para ba ma-promote yung nasa sinasabi ng B, allow borrowing? Hindi. Is it to enable students to move around? Kaya mo nga finifix, di ba? Para hindi. Is it to allow easy exchange of seats when needed? Bakit? Magkakaroon ba tayo ng trip to Jerusalem? Hindi naman. So, for 160, it's more of bakit kailangan flexible yung ating seating arrangement? It's because to facilitate interactive teaching learning process during class activities. So, for 160, that is letter A. Kailangan maging interactive yung teaching learning natin. So, why not from time to time, i-arrange mo yung chairs nila in a way na makakapag-ano sila, hindi yung palagi na lang yung standard nating classroom setup. Basta yung makakapag-manifest ng interactive teaching learning process. Ayan, number 161, it says here, kapag ang cognitive domain mo ay mayroong demonstration, computation, solving, anong objective ang create mo? Is it comprehension? Analysis ba yan? Bakit may breakdown ka ba? Is it synthesis? May binuo ka ba? Is it application? May ginawa ka ba? In-apply? Meron. So, meaning, the answer for 161 is application. All those three verbs are pertaining to application. Next, 162. For 162, it says, a teacher asked, if we raise the temperature to 100 degrees Celsius, what will happen? Ano daw yung mangyayari kapag tinaas natin yung temperature? Kung ganito lang din yung katanungan ni teacher, ano ngayon yung type ng tanong? Anong tanong ito? It's what? If we raise. If. Meron siyang if eh. So, meaning magti-think beyond yung ating mga learners. So, is that evaluative? Hindi. Is that a recall? Hindi naman. Is it empirical? Oh, is it analytic? Yes, it's analytic. If we raise, o diba? Mapapaisip sila. 163 says, what kind of questions should the teacher ask when she likes to elicit responses where the student is free to generate independently his own idea? Own idea, o ano siya? Itong type daw ng tanong na to, it allows originality, flexibility, and of course, spontaneity. Ano siya? Elicit responses. Yan kasi yung gustong gawin ni teacher. So, what is that? Is it under your cognitive? Is it convergent? Divergent ba yan? O analytic ba siya? Ano siya? It's more of originality tayo tsaka flexibility. Ano siya? It's divergent. Kasi originality, flexibility, spontaneity, meaning we are into open-ended questions. These questions needs further explanations, further talking of the students. Next, 164, very easy question. Which type of curriculum promotes a high-level cooperative interaction and meaningful immediate use of learning? Highly cooperative yung ating instruction. So, therefore, it's not subject-centered. Kasi pag subject-centered na yan, very traditional na yan. It's not, may society-centered ba tayo? Wala rin, hindi din. Kasi kung halimbawa, meron mang society-centered sa curriculum, ay na, type of curriculum, di meaning problem-based dapat yan. How about culture-centered? It doesn't talk about traditions. So, how about learner-centered? So, A na ba yung sagot? Sure kayo? Tama. 165. Which type of curriculum assesses integration of learning by systematic correlation of subject matter around themes? Around themes. So, alam na ninyo kung ano. It's your core design. Siyempre, nagre-revolve sa isang tema. Kapag few subjects naman, isang subject plus isang subject, mo sila, makagawa ka ng panibagong subject. Correlated subjects naman, yung isang concept sa isang subject, gagamitin mo sa isang subject. Halimbawa, we have your mathematical concepts, gagamitin mo siya sa physics at chemistry. Pero alam mo pa din na that physics and chemistry are still sciences. So meaning, kukuha ka lang ng concept, gagamitin mo sa kabila para pero magre-retain yung identity ng mga subject na yun. So that is correlated. Broad fields naman, it requires longer time. Ano pa? Siyempre, broader fields nag-combine. Ganun siya. Halimbawa sa ating yung ating arts, ilalagay natin sa SOCSTAD, i-add natin dyan, mga concepts dyan. That is your broad field. So, therefore, the answer here is, thematic kasi siya, so it's core. 166. Anong sabi sa 166? Si Peter, kinikiss niya yung kamay ng kanyang mother kapag dumating sa bahay at kapag pauwi na siya. His younger son learned to do the same when he left to US for study. So bale, ginaya din siya ng kanyang, son. Meaning, saan kapamilya niya ito? So meaning, natutunan niya ito within his culture. Therefore, it goes or it falls under your, very good, it's your enculturation inside. 167 says, the provision of academic freedom is applicable for teachers in its colleges and universities. How about 168? The regular progression of Filipino teachers' salary from minimum to... yan. Ito, nakapalob ito sa ating RA 4670 or Magna Carta for Public School Teachers. Na ang regular increment ay nag-i-increase regular increment of every 3 years. Yan yung progression ng sahod ng mga teachers. 3 years yung nakalagay doon. Yan siya. Next. No person shall practice the teaching profession in the Philippines without having previously obtained parang naulit na din yung thought ng tanong na to sa previous nating mga discussions. Hindi ka pwedeng makapag-teach kung wala kang valid certificate of registration and, of course, valid license. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, halos lahat ng teachers gusto talagang magka-license kasi nga, yun nga talaga yung nasa batas natin. Ayan. So, kayo ba gusto na magkaroon ng valid certificate of registration? Valid license? Ngayon na or next time? Siyempre, dapat ngayon na, no? Number 170 says, Section 24 of RA 4670 provides that teachers are... Sabi daw sa Section 24 ng RA 4670, ang ating mga teachers ay pwede nang magkaroon ng study leave not exceeding 1 year kung ilang taon na sila sa service. Ang nakalagay doon kung meron na silang 7 years in service. Therefore, the answer here is letter A. Next, which are the basic dimensions of the teaching profession? Bonus question. The answer is, syempre, knowledge, social, ethical, and professional. Tatandaan KSEP. Knowledge, social, ethical, and professional. Next, 172. The environment in order to facilitate learning must be interactive. Dapat daw interactive yung ating environment. Which of the following best typifies this kind of environment? So let's search for the interactive environment. Child listens to a lecture. Interactive ba yan? Hindi. Child summarizes the section. Hindi rin yan interactive. Child copies a list. Interactive ba yan? Hindi rin. The child goes out and discovers for himself some rocks or fossils. Is that interactive? Yes, because the child is going out in the environment. So, involve yung bata doon. Tapos ano pa? You made him discover things around him. Next, social development means that the acquisition of the ability to behave in accordance with what? Di ba? May social development na nga dyan. Syempre expected, nang isasagot nyo ay social expectation. Sabi nga dyan, acquisition of ability to behave in accordance with is your social expectation, of course. Next, 174. When an adolescent combines ability to use deductive and inductive reasoning in constructing realistic rules that he can respect and live by, how does he perceive his environment? Ano na? Pag ba ganyan, yung own perspective pa lang din niya, yung kanyang nakikita? Hindi. Pag ba ganyan, limited na yung kanyang view? Hindi. Pag ba ganyan, he does events apart from himself and other people? Hindi. Pag ba ganyan, he does the world and himself through the eyes of other people? It's more of letter D, kapag ganyan na yung ng adolescent. Next, the authoritarian setting in the Filipino home is reinforced by a classroom teacher who, pag sinabi nating authoritarian, is that negative or positive? That's negative. So, hanap tayo dyan. It's letter B. Prescribe what pupils should do. Kapag authoritarian setting, yung ating family, yung parents, yung mga strict na dapat ganito ka, dapat ganyan ka. Ganyan. So, for authoritarian, meron siyang N, no? Tatandaan nyo na negative yung connotation niyan. Kapag naman authoritative, yung present, VE, yung nasa hulihan, di ba? Very good. So, kapag kasi authoritative, may guidance yung parents, pero ina-explain nila sa bata kung bakit. Kaya, mas okay yung authoritative kesa sa authoritarian. Ganyan siya. Next, 176. Who among the following believes that learning requires discipline, attention, regular homework, respect for legitimate authority? Ano siya? Progressivist ba yan? Reconstructionist ba yan? Perennialist? Yes, it's your essentialism. Respect for legitimate authority, discipline, attention, homework. Essentialist lahat yan. Papansin nyo sa essentialist is basic, traditional. Next, 177. Which of the following reasons for measuring student achievement is not valid? Not valid. Feedback, kailangan ba yan? Kailangan yan. Certify. Sa letter B, certify sabi dyan. Yes. How about to discourage students from cheating during tests and getting high scores? How about D, to motivate students to learn and master materials they think they will cover by the achievement test? It's more of letter C tayo dyan. No? Discourage students from cheating. Not valid. Not valid kasi yung hinahanap natin. Next, 178. Society and media know drinking starts off drug addiction. Society and media know drinking starts off drug addiction. What should be discussed in schools then? Drinking starts off from drug addiction. So, syempre, parang ang point niya is they go side by side. So, we will select the choice or option na ganyan din yung point. It's more of letter A. Drug addiction has been traced to drinking wine. Now, 179. Which of the following measures should a teacher do to a principal whom she would like to file a case of sexual harassment without violating the relationship of the teacher to her superiors? Ano siya? Gusto niyang mag-file ng kaso. It's sexual harassment. Now, alin yan yung dapat niyang gawin? Are we allowing, or sa ating Code of Ethics, ina-allow ba yung write an anonymous letter to a higher school official to denounce the superior? O hindi siya dapat anonymous? How about call a parent-teacher meeting? Ano namang kinalaman ng ating parents? Diba? Ano yan? Impeachment? Impeach si principal? How about D? Encourage the teachers and students to hold a demonstration to oust the superior. O, dinamay mo pa yung mga estudyante, edi mas lalo kang machichismis niyan, di ba? How about A? Present the case before competent authority and prepare to prove the charge. Kung talagang totoo yung sinasabi mo, edi you should abide by the rules na dapat i-present mo yung case sa competent authority given na meron kang mga evidences. Siyempre, kung may evidence ka na, you are ready to prove the charge. So, it's more of letter A. For 180, it says here, duty of a new teacher O parang yung question din kanina doon sa previous, yung expected of a new graduate. O take a long vacation daw. Pwede ba yan? Hindi. Apply for teaching job where eligibility is not required. Di ba nga, dapat license ka? How about prepare for the wedding? Wedding agad. Kabago-bago. How about take the licensure examination for teacher and NO to do her best to help carry out the policies of the state? That is the best answer. And kung titignan natin, siya lang yung may sense sa mga options. The answer is D. 181. It says here, in the formulation of classroom regulations, which of the following should a teacher refrain from doing? Ano yung mga hindi dapat gawin ni teacher? Classroom regulation should be clear. Siyempre, dapat. Enlist student aid in the formulation of classroom regulation. Pwede. Kuha ka ng mga estudyante na makakatulong sa'yo. How about enforce classroom regulations consistently and fairly? Of course, that should be done. How about D? The teacher and the class should make as many regulations as possible. Ay, grabe. Paano na lang kapag super dami na yan? Di magkakanda, lito-lituhan na kayo. Baka may ayaw paawat. Baka anytime magpabigay ng rules and regulations. So, that is letter D. Yan yung dapat hindi gawin. Meron din syempre limit.
Your favorite informative multimedia news platform, Cbrc News Live,
is now on YouTube.
Cbrc News Live.
Cbrc News Live.
Cbrc News Live.
Cbrc News Live.
Cbrc News Live is now on YouTube.
Click here. Click here.
Click here.
Click here.
Click here to subscribe.
Hi everyone, I am Christian Cassia Mendoza, a licensed professional teacher and a proud CBRC top-notcher. And I am going to rationalize the summative examination for professional education. So, let us begin with number 1. Values are subjective. Your value may not necessarily be my value. What subscribe to this thought? 1. Progressivist. 2. Pragmatist. 3. Essentialist. Let us discuss first the progressivist. Progressivism is a student-centered philosophy which allows the children or the students to have their own beliefs. Second, the pragmatism is a student-centered philosophy as well that changes or shifts according to the needs of the learners. On the other hand, essentialism is a teacher-centered philosophy which believes that there is a set of skills or knowledge that